All right, we're back. We're back with episode 31. Today's guest, Nick and I are really stoked to talk to, and we've actually talked to quite a bit in our last Japan trip. Chad Covington, owner of Sol Kendamas. How you doing, Chad?
Let's go, baby. I'm doing good. Good to be with you guys, and stoked to talk about Dama. Stoked to talk about Soul. Gonna be a good time.
Well, speaking of Damas, yeah, real quick, the
Yeah,
Soul Now collab. I mean, that just dropped and it's gone.
yeah, yeah. It's here and gone. Dude, very stoked to work with Eric at Dow Raptor Clear. It's taking over. For my players like Kelvin, Alex, it's literally been like a go-to setup for comps. Alex he's won every comp aside from Cup now, like using this setup. Every comp he's been to, he's won using this kendama. So yeah, excited to get it out there to more people. Like more people can try it out now. And I think, yeah, like Europe, everyone, all the European players know like Dow is amazing. But then until like Battle this year, it was like Dow's first time leaving Europe, coming to the US, and like that exposure for them is big. So I'm excited to collaborate with him again. And
Yeah.
yeah,
You just
Dow's
keep
turned out
helping
great.
people, like helping people get on like the new trends for paint. I mean, Sulab a couple of years ago and now you're just
Yeah, I feel
exploding.
like
Yeah.
2019 we was the first time we collaborated with Sue, and prior to that, like people in the US just weren't really playing Friction Clear, didn't really know about Sue Lab unless you went to Japan, visited the shop, which was really cool. The shop is amazing.
Mhm.
But yeah, every time we would collaborate again with Sue, I would double the amount of Damas. They would sell out. And then on the most recent one we did, it was 800, still sold out. It was
Yeah. Wow.
50. It was 50, and then we did two colors, and we did 100 of each. So, he had 50, we had 50, so it was 100. And then the next round we did 200s, we doubled it, still sold out, and then yeah, we did four times on the next one and still sold out. I hit him up to like collaborate again. Clearly, a very popular kendama. This was about a year ago, and he said, "Sorry, can't do it until 2025." I was like, oh my gosh!" Like he was like, "We're booked" or something like that. Like we're booked until 2025, and I was like, "Well, great." It's like, man, like, we kind of introduced you to the US a bit, so it'd be nice to keep working together. But yeah, right now Eric's very sick working with us, and stoked to bring this to a more broad
Yeah.
audience. And yeah, people in the US are loving it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally didn't try Dow for the first time until I went to Europe this year for EKC, and then yeah, now I'm on the train for Dow. So now I understand
Yeah.
the hype.
I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't try Dow until about the border until I tried Alex's setup, and I was like, let me just see what you're working with. Oh my gosh, dude, let's get out
Dude,
of our play.
this is this is crazy because Eric hit me up just as a sponsor, and he was looking at ways to, with sponsorship packages, trying to figure out ways to work with me and not get a discount, but like he's like, hey, can we do a collab and then exchange the value of the Thomas for sponsorship fee?
Mhm.
And I'm down for that if I like trust person, I know the brand, I like it, it makes sense. All those things are important. And so yeah, I'd met Eric before in Japan. I think it was like 2019. Like he came to the JKA Festa. He like won some kind of event, and JKA flew him out. So the first time I met him was then, and then I'm again at EKC, of course. But yeah, he's like, let's do a collab, and we got 30, he got 30, and they sold out at Battle. I didn't even get one, and I didn't even try. I didn't even try Raptor Clear at that point. Like I think it was probably EKC when they were. Dude, he was doing the EKC event Dama. He had his pro model, like just a huge lineup, and then of course, yeah, Alex playing and Kelvin as well, and hearing from the team. I'm like, okay, we got to do more of these. So we
Yeah.
did, yeah. And plan on doing more with Eric in the future. Easy to work with, great guy, good products. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
good experience all around.
it's awesome to hear. So hey, if you're listening, you haven't tried Raptor Clear, try your best to get your hands on one. I mean, there'll be more chances in the future. It sounds like from Soul.
Definitely.
Hey, I mean, this is my one of the best times I've ever played, and this is Raptor. So there it is.
So sick. Definitely. Yeah, it's the new paint. You gotta get on it. So
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's a new like best paint. So it's really nice. Yeah. Well, Chad, today like you said, I mean, we're just really, really excited to talk about, the history of a player, of you as a player, but also Sol. I mean, you're a longtime company owner. Sol first, I believe Sol was first created in 2013, right?
So 2014 is when we
Oh,
like
okay.
sold our first kendama, I'd say. But from 2013, like the idea and like I brought a sample to Spoketown Throwdown. So like I like had some stuff prior to 2014, but yeah, June 2014 was when we sold our first product. So
Okay, cool.
yeah,
And but you've been playing Kendama longer than that. Like you're actually are
yeah.
definitely one of the veterans of the United States, in my opinion, who's still around today, 100%. When did you start playing? What got you into it? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I started playing Easy Date to Remember, May the 4th,
Nice.
2010. Yeah, I just Star Wars Day. Pretty epic day to start Kendama on.
Yeah.
I went to high school with a guy named Tyler Marshall, an OG before me. He's cousins with Jake Weens. So Jake Weens, the Kendama evangelist, he is. I think the second he got a hold of Kendama, he's like, dude, I need to share this with every human possible.
Yeah.
And so he was just like in San Francisco. He hosted the first American Kendama events, and he coined the term battle. Like the Ken Garden battles were the first Kendama events in the U.S., which is crazy. And Jake was just like, I want to do something cool with this game that I found. And so, yeah, Jake gave a kendama to Tyler, his cousin, for Christmas. Tyler brought it to our high school, and we played soccer together. So he was kind of an all-star soccer player. And so I think whenever somebody popular at school gets kendama, and they kind of have a little bit of influence as a all-star player, other people just kind of like wanted to try, and kendama was fun as well. So like you get that first spike. Pretty much everyone in my school, if they didn't have a kendama, like tried it or knew about it, they could like name very basic tricks. Guys, girls alike. Like a lot of girls in my grade, I had older brothers were into kendama, and so like one of the first spikes I got was just on not actually Tyler's kendama, but there was a girl in my class who her older brother was like best friends with Tyler. So got my first bike, and for me, that was the moment where I'm like, oh yeah, I wanna get one of these. Just that satisfaction of like landing your first spike. For me, it really secured it, and then seeing what you could do afterwards was like earth turn. You can go to all the cups. And then they did orbit, and they're like, you can orbit both ways, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I was gonna go order one. I asked the girl in my class, like, where did you get that? She said Konami USA, but it was a silver Shin Fuji, and like Konami USA never sold those at all. Like, so I think she just said that, but the paint was so cheap on the Shin Fuji Tom, it just chipped away like crazy. So I was like, I don't know, I don't trust like an American Konami brand. Like I'm gonna buy it directly from Japan. So I went to japanzone.com and I bought a blue TK16 just straight off the website. It took like 3 weeks to get here, but finally got my first kendama and haven't looked back. So
wow. And
yeah.
wow. And so your first impression of kendama, what'd you think? Because a lot of times people think, oh, yeah, that's dumb, but then my friend got you try it and you're like, oh, I could say it's actually really fun. Was that you
Yeah.
or?
No, for me, I think it was always just so interesting, and the way that it kind of blew up in my school, it wasn't like a fad. It was just this cool, interesting thing, and I think like the same energy that Jake Weens carries and shows kendama carried through Tyler. So it wasn't like, oh, some like nerdy kids at school are playing at recess. It was just kind of this cool, interesting thing, and everyone who played kendama would just get together and kick it, and then it just kind of like everyone started playing. I don't know, it was always a cool thing in my eyes. And trying it was for me what definitely like sealed the deal. I'm like, I gotta get one of these. Like, so much fun.
Yeah. Did getting one straight from Japan kind of make you feel like you were above some others?
Dude, yeah. I didn't even think of that, but I was like, definitely like, oh yeah, mine's not gonna chip. There's no way. Like I'm getting the real deal, like Japanese, and like the TK packaging, like all the pamphlet fully Japanese. The only thing that's in English is like TK16 Master.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like Grain Theory recently just did like their version of they call it the GT16. The packaging is like iconic to that same package that I got. I'm like, oh, it's sick to see that like come back later.
Yeah.
They're not in production anymore, so
Yeah.
kind of a cool way to like show homage, pay homage to those like old school kendamas. A TK paint, I will say, is like the most durable of those like OG paints. So glossy, no grip at all.
None.
So like Lighthouse to me in high school, like when I first got kendama, was the absolute hardest trick.
Yeah.
And like for me, not having watched any videos, like just kendama came to school, Lighthouse, and not even spiking it. How long can you balance it? Was like that was the hardest thing in my head that could be done on a kendama. And so it's crazy to like slowly discover and get involved in kendama, and then you see videos and you're like, oh, like your whole like world opens up past that like first experience, I guess. So
yeah, it's funny to compare how easy kendama is, I guess, with the shapes we have now, how difficult it was back then to how easy it is now. That's why how you see so many people getting good so fast. There's definitely some definitely some relation to the shapes now. It plays a big part, because back then, I mean, I thought it took me a month, no, two months maybe to Lighthouse. So yeah, that doesn't really happen. You can teach Lighthouse to somebody in a day now. So
dude, so this was a gift from oh wait, who gave me this? It'll come to me in a second. But this is a green Shinfuji, actually kind of rare. And the paint on this was like pretty durable. But if you do compare the cup sizes to like, this is big cup to big cup.
It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Insane. I think the lighthouse, yeah. So the bottom cup was the size of like the old big cups.
Yeah, wow.
You just see it eats it. And then the bevel sizes too, and the paint it was so slick until like we got sour mash. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah. People can just learn tricks so much easier, and that's why like when you hear like, oh, how long have you been playing? Someone's like 18 months, and they're like in the top 16 of an open division. You're like, oh wow. That's crazy. Seeing players even within 3 years landing never been done tricks and kind of like pushing kendama, and definitely the progression of shapes and paint has like got us here. So
yeah.
Yeah,
unreal.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and yeah, like when I see those kids or people who just in general have been playing for just a short amount of time, they're lacing hard. It's really just mind boggling.
Goton gave this to me.
Okay, cool.
And fun fact, 2014 KWC seal on it.
What?
He competed with that
at the first cup, and like we were at Catch and Flow, the like after jam, and I was talking with Keith Cristobal and or not Keith Cristobal, no, Ryan Cabal. Sorry, that was a big yeah, complete wrong everything. So Ryan Cabal and I were talking. He was seshing this, and I was like, "Oh, a green Shinfuji. I've actually never even seen that before." And he's like, "Oh, it's Gatons." I was like, "Gatons, so thick." And then he showed me this. I was like, "Dude, that's crazy." He goes, "It's yours." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Gift." I'm like, "Oh, what?" So I just freaked out. I guess, yeah, he just gave it to me. I was like, "All right." Yeah. So I gave him a fresh Sol. I'm like, it's
okay.
Cool. I don't know. This is a relic, but the first ever cup sticker, like, that's crazy. I'm a collector, so that's crazy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking on early days, a lot of people, some people might not know this about you because you've been in the game for so long, but you actually, as a player coming up, you were a sponsored player at one point. You were part of the team.
Yeah.
You were repping one of the most popular companies in the game back then. I mean, we're talking big three, Konami, Sweets, Kenko. That's what it kind of was back then. Tell us your journey through those days, and then kind of shifting over to more of the Sol, because I think that's something people would like to know.
Yeah, I'll try and talk about it quickly. But
Yeah.
I could go so deep on all of these different subjects. I think one of the things for me, beyond just the feeling of satisfaction landing a trick and progressing in kendama, that really made me continue playing kendama and continue progressing, was filming edits. It's like the I really enjoyed just like setting up a camera, getting the shot, landing the trick, and then editing to music and sharing that with other people. Like that was just one thing that I really enjoyed in kendama. And so I started doing that. And um, at the time, kendama brands like sponsoring players was a new thing, because it's just when kendama was so new, it was in its infancy. Kendama USA had a sponsorship contest. I entered that. I think it might have been 2011, and like I didn't make the cut. I was like, that's fine. I was like 1 year into kendama. Like,
Yeah.
ended up like Sweets Kenamas came out with the sponsorship contest, and like the day it was due, I was gonna go out and like film grind that day. I didn't like have anything ready. I guess I was like busy with school. I don't know what the reason was, but I was gonna enter, and I went out to film the windiest day ever. Like so windy. I like filmed for like an hour, and I'm like, I can't get anything. Like it was just, I was like, I guess I can't enter. So I didn't enter that, but like I wanted to. And then some time passed, and at the time, Instagram didn't have video, so you pretty much just like, if you wanted to share tricks, it was entire edits. So you'd stack footage, and like at this point, I had quite a bit of footage stacked up from like all over the U.S., like wherever I just was. My family, maybe we went on a vacation, or like I would go, visit a friend or something. I would like set up and film. So I probably had like 8 or 9 tricks stacked up, and then the Canonico sponsorship contest came out. So I was like, oh, sure, I'll just throw something together. Went out, and I think I filmed like maybe 3 more tricks for the edit on top of what I had just stacked for like random edit purposes, and submitted my entry, and made the cut for the secondary team called the Zen team. Basically, just got free product, like Kenamas, t-shirts, and then when I went to events, they would cover like half my flight and then cover the hotel, and then sometimes even meals paid. And I was very surprised by that. Like that was great. So I think because I shared a lot of videos and was like pretty active in posting online, the sponsorship was a good way to, like for the brand, is like, oh, this guy's active and like doing stuff. My skill level wasn't with the rest of the Canonico team, because at the time they were the brand, like with the heavy hitters, the ones at competitions you're scared about, like. And then I was on the team. I'm like, it's crazy. I'm teammates with like Bonds and Fisher and Chris Bosch. So many names, like Sam Canning. It could go on forever. But I think, I made the cut purely on just like being active, being involved. At the time, had been hosting Battle at the Border for 2 years. So like they're like, oh, he has an annual kendama event. So a lot of things kind of tied in there. And I was sponsored for almost 3 years. And then like halfway through, my older brother Shelton he's like, dude, you're doing all this work for a kendama brand, like we should start our own. And so Sol came into play like literally halfway through my sponsorship. And they were cool. Canonico was cool with me starting a brand. They felt like it was no conflict of interest at the time. And then after like a year or so of doing Sol and Kenko, I felt super conflicted. I'm like, wearing a Kenko shirt, playing a Sol Dama, or playing a Kenko Dama wearing a Sol shirt. And so I was like, never knew like, what to do. But eventually left Canonico. Then Canonico went out of business. So I was like, oh, I had no clue that was even going to happen. But the transition into Sol was like, just made sense. And so since that moment, I've been just purely focused on Sol, and it's been great. But that was Kenko was like 2013 to 2015, something like that.
And so you left Kenko 2015, 2014?
I think it was, I remember like Dama and the D weekend. I was up in Michigan, and like I had just left, and like I think we were eating at Joe's Burgers or wherever downtown. And I just, in my head, I remember that time period being like, what's happening to Konamiko? And I think I had left like just before that or just after that. Like there was, yeah, that time frame was like crazy. When big things in Kendama happen, I was like, whoa. Like even this week, like finding out about 365, I'm like, what? Like this is crazy. Like a brand that I thought just had like a really strong grip, a foundation of the community, and something happens, we don't know like exactly what it is, and it goes away, and you're like wow. So that was a moment where Konamiko is like a brand that nobody saw going under or disappearing, just kind of like stop in like 2015 and 16. So
yeah, what was that?
wild.
Yeah, I got reminded from 365. It's so sad about 365.
Yeah.
I literally got reminded of Konamiko from that aspect too, in the same sense of like you didn't see it coming. I mean, they
Yeah.
Kendama, and then a couple days later they said, okay, we're done. And it's like what? So
Dude, it's great. Yeah, like I saw Luke Ford post a trick on a 365. I'm like, dude, he's like, he could get sponsored by them. Like he's been great, And
yeah,
like that was a day before. I was like, oh, that's like feel bad for Luke. I'm like, that trick was crazy. You just like little things like that. It goes so deep, and like you never really know, like I guess what's going on or like, yeah. So I mean, dude, Edwin was at KWC, and like they helped fund his trip, right?
Yep.
And that's crazy. So it seems like even in July, things were going well, or at least the intention to continue was strong. But yeah, it's sad to see brands come and go because it has such an impact on everyone. And yeah, really just hope the best for everyone, and kind of just I don't know. Yeah, it's wild to see different brands come and go, and Konamiko is one of those. So yeah.
What was so you said Shelton, your brother, came to you just like, hey, you know all this work, why don't we just start our own? How was that decision? Did you just jump into that? Were you just like, yeah, you're right, we should? Or were you like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think for me, I love Kendama, and I really loved making videos, and going to events as well just really kept me interested in continuing Kendama and like progressing. And so yeah, Shelton came to me the idea, just like, let's start a brand. I'm like, I don't know, how do you make kendamas? Like I knew how to like market kendamas, I guess. I just like sharing videos and photos online, and I had a couple ideas as a player. You're like, oh, I would like to see this from a kendama brand, or like your own brand. If you're sponsored, you're like, oh, I would love this, but like, why aren't they doing that? So I had a lot of ideas and a lot of things that would have been like exciting to do. And then when Shelton came to me with the idea, I'm like, well, like what can we offer that hasn't been done already? And at the time there was like Kendama USA had Cherry Pro models, and I remember Alex Smith and then like Luke Evans from Grip shaving the paint off the tamas of the pro models, and then they had just like a beautiful cherry tama and a cherry Ken, and that had not been offered in Kendama before, just like a full natural kendama that was not like just beech or maple. So we just came in with full cherry, full walnut, full beech, full maple. And we initially were just going to be a fully natty brand, was the original take. And we did that for a while. We had the flows. But then as time goes on, you're like, oh, paint is very important. And it was also at the time where like rubber paint and sticky paint was starting to like happen, at least from the manufacturing side of things. Before it was like just glossy and natty. And for us that was normal, but like nowadays, like, yeah, people were like, what do you mean like paint, like sticky paint just wasn't a thing? It really wasn't. Like so like when Sol started, like our thing was just natty. So we like transitioned away from that. But yeah, I think it was just having a lot of ideas as a player and as a sponsored player, like stuff that I wanted Kendamiko to have that they didn't have, or like, I'd give an idea and they're like, oh, that would be cool, but yeah, I just don't see us doing that. I could do that with Sol. So it felt like a very easy transition, I guess. And I think a lot of things with Sol that I've done from the beginning, even until now, it's just like a feeling I have, or it's like very organic. It's like, oh, this feels like the right thing, or like I want to do this. we've never really tried to force anything, or we've never tried to like make any decisions based on like money, or make any decisions that are like, oh, this is gonna, elevate us to this level. It's like, what do I want to do? Who are cool people to work with? Who else is making really cool things? Like, how can we, make something with them? Like Battle at the Border. The whole reason I wanted to host Battle at the Border is like, I love going to kendama events. Like, I want to host one so people can come and enjoy the event, and make friends. And so just kind of like doing a lot of things that I love in kendama, and hopefully, yeah, like working with other people who feel the same way, and just trying to do as much as I can, because yeah, I think I love kendama. It's cool to share that with other people. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that so since the beginning, whether it be with who you add or what kenamas you make or who you collab with, it's always just been by this feeling you have.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. Like, there's a few decisions like early on that kind of set a foundation for a lot of things that we do.
Mm,
And Shelton had influence on that. Like, the Soul Vibes was Shelton's idea. He's like, oh, it'd be cool if everyone on the team just designed kendama, came up with a name for it, and then we just have a full lineup, designed by the team. Like, oh, that sounds sick. Like, we did that before we had pro models.
yeah.
And I think that was also because at the time, as a developing company and brand, with other brands who had pros that were like highly esteemed in the community, it felt like, oh, if we released our own pro models as this like new brand, like who's really going to care, I guess, about the pro model or the pro if they're not even in competitions winning, or like they're
Mm,
not posting these tricks that are mind blowing. So we just kind of like, we'll get there, but for now, like, let's just kind of do things a bit more naturally, because
yeah.
you could come out the gates with a pro model. Any brand could start tomorrow, start a pro team, but it's like, you want the respect of the community, right? And I guess me as a player, and knowing like basically my role, like on Konamiko at the time, like I'm like, I could have started Soul and made myself a pro model, but that just like makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
And like, there's no, I feel like I want that respect to be earned for the players, but also like for myself as well. And so, uh, yeah, I think early on, like, the Soul Vibes is such a great idea. And like, we've seen recently, Kusa did the tribe mods,
Yeah.
and it kind of a similar concept. Question Kenamas did one as well, a lineup that their whole team had a bit of influence on. And so,
Yeah.
it's a really good idea, but man, we did that in 2016, and like, it's so cool now to like have players like Rudney or Tom.
Yeah.
They're like, I want to get like thinking about like joining Souls. Like, when they got on the team, I can't remember if it was Tom or Rudney. They're like, wait a second, I get a vibe. They're like, oh, like so hyped on that, and that was like something when we made that original lineup. We weren't thinking like, oh, this would be like a cool thing whenever someone joins a team that they're really looking forward to, beyond just the free product, and like being on a dope team, those kind of things. But yeah, this feeling, I guess, is kind of like, as a player in kendama, I know what I want, and I know kind of the vibe of what everyone else wants and looks forward to, and also a good mix of like, what can we offer that other people aren't doing, or what value can we bring to the kendama community and to our players as a whole. So those decisions are kind of just like based on that feeling and those kind of thought patterns, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we had conversations earlier, like last month about, we talked about, and we'll get into this more in depth later, but the kind of how
Yeah.
you choose your team, and you pick member, and how you go about, facilitating that awesome environment you guys have in your soul team. And you talked about this feeling, so it's nice to hear you talk about it again. I think it's just, I think
Yeah.
it's totally unique to, I mean, still totally unique to the way you do things, because it's just you, and you go with your gut, you go with the experiences that you've had, and I just think, when you're talking about this chat, honestly, all I'm thinking is like, well, like, I would trust him with a decision,
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I'd trust him for sure. It's just because I've seen, I mean, it's been great to see the growth since from day one. I mean, Nick and I have been playing since when you guys had that started. I still remember your first post on Instagram from the Sol account. I literally thought
Yeah.
I literally thought it was like I was like, oh, Sol Kendamas. This is just like not a real company. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know.
gotta earn the respect, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to like, yeah, it takes
I
time.
was like, they have 10 followers. I don't really know what this is, but apparently this is their kendama. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and even when we posted it, it technically was like you said 2013. It was in 2013,
yeah,
like
yeah,
when we
yeah.
posted. So the fact that you remember that's also very awesome. Yeah.
It's just a picture of Kendama, I think, right? Yeah. So
Yeah. And fun fact, like that first sample and the first photo, like on the Soul account was we didn't have the bevel basically in the bottom of the sun. It was just a sun. Like
I remember
no,
that. Yeah.
yeah. And so like there's like 4 samples out there. I still have them, but there's 4 samples with like no, it's like the sun, it was like before the sun,
Yeah.
the Soul Sun. So yeah, that's crazy. But thanks, man. Yeah, I love kendama and just want to keep doing it and keep making awesome things. So
Yeah. No, it's great. And you were talking about you were getting to 2016 there with the vibes and all of this. That was about you say you started officially fully 2014.
yeah.
Some of those so in between 2014, 2017, those first few years, what was one of the biggest challenges you faced back then, and how did you overcome it? Because I mean, obviously you were like with the soul, and you got into it. You're like, how do I do this and stuff, and you clearly made
Yeah.
it past year one, year two. You're getting to year three, year four, five. What were some of the
Yeah.
biggest challenges you faced?
So 2014, I was it was the end of my freshman year of high school.
Hmm.
Starting or sorry, into my freshman year of college. Sorry. I
Okay.
started Kanama end of my freshman year of high school and then started Soul 4 years later in end of my freshman year of college.
Hmm.
And so at that time, like full-time student, anywhere from like 15 to 18 hours a semester. And yeah, Kendama was like my passion, my fun thing to do after class, in between classes, on the weekends, and I think just I don't know, it's challenges. You figure out a lot of stuff like initially, um, we thought it was cool. Grain Theory stamped their bags and like had bags instead of boxes. So like we made bags and we ordered the cloth bags and then we ordered a stamp and like we were hand stamping like 400 however many cloth bags.
Yeah.
And then I think Shelton was like, oh, I wonder if we could get the bags printed. And then we started getting the bags printed. Like, oh, dude, that was like hours and hours of work stamping a bag that like, yeah, it's cool to like have a hand stamp bag. And I still have like a few of those like old hand stamped bags. But like figuring, I guess those would be like the hurdles, things like that. Or like we had a printer and we would like print our labels, cut out the label and then tape it on the box when we were shipping orders. They were like, oh, there's label writers, like things like that. That you just kind of like saves a lot of time. There's a lot of things like that. We would order our kendamas with white string, and then we would order black string. I would unstring them all and then restring them, and I'm like, oh, we could order kendamas with black string. People weren't doing it back in the day. It wasn't a thing. You couldn't buy a kendama that had a different. They were all white, like this. Every kendama came with a white string. So it was like things like that that were, at the time I didn't even think anything of it. I was just excited to do it. But like, yeah, I think a lot of little things like that, where we save time and, figuring out little things as a business that are like, oh, we don't have to waste time doing this. We focus on really important things like, growing the kendama community and hosting events or, making videos to share with people that motivate people to make videos and get better at kendama, those kind of things. So I would say the main things in those first like 3 years were really just like small business hurdles that were big time things that took a lot of time. But everything else was like, I think if you're not a kendama player and you don't absolutely love kendama in every sense, it's probably hard to, oh, we need to go to this event. We need to do this. we need to make videos. We need to like, I love making videos. I love taking photos. I love going to events. I was just doing that. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. So like, I'm sure for a lot of people starting a kendama brand, if it's not like 100 and like 50%, no, like 1,000,000% your passion, and you don't love it, then like you're definitely gonna be like, oh man, like this is hard. This is a lot of work. But like, I would drive 5 hours one way to a kendama event and not even think twice about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
some people would be like, oh well, we got to go to this event. It's a big thing for the brand. I was like, no, I'm going to the event. Like, the brand can join me. I'm going. Like, I'm gonna be there. So I think that's a big factor too. It's like a lot of what we do. For me, even now, like Sol is 10 years old this year. For me now, like the things that really feel like work are emails. Emails is the thing. Everything else still, like, I strung up all the DAO collabs and like weight matched them. I didn't feel like I was working. I'm like, dude, I'm making hone setups, and it was just, it's fun for me. And like, I don't know. I'm sure that for some people that's probably like, oh, I gotta go spend 10 hours like weight matching, or like, for me, I'm like, dude, I love doing this. It's fun. So yeah, I feel like in the early days, like there were really no, like difficult things or hurdles. It was just like, okay, how do we make this, more efficient, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's amazing to hear, dude. I mean, I can definitely hear your passion coming through and just talking about it. And it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, you obviously in the company over 10 years, but it's really, really cool to hear your thought process about this because, I'm expecting to hear some more intense challenges, but you don't view maybe the most intensive challenges as those things that other people might view them.
Definitely.
It's just, you really love 95% of the aspects of running the company, it sounds like, which is super, super awesome. And I think that is a huge testament to Sol's longevity. And it's just huge. I definitely want to say that's a huge reason why you guys are still killing it today. I mean, doing it for 10 years is not, I mean, a lot of players listening to this have not been playing Konami for that long, or not even like,
I guess so. Yeah. It's crazy to
so,
think about. I feel like I really do feel like I'm just doing it. I enjoy it, and I'm just doing it. And like 10 years has gone by so fast, which is wild. I've done a lot of cool things. I've been a lot of cool places and like met tons of really amazing people, but I feel like I just started playing Kendama. It's crazy. Like, it's so crazy. Like, for real.
That's incredible.
in the in the past year, you say you met a lot of you've had a ton of amazing experiences, met a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
What and I just want to touch on this real quick. You did mention, okay, I want to get some respect for the brand first before we do any like mods or anything else besides making noms or all of this. What year did you feel like what year or time period did you feel like you actually got that respect from Sol? Like, what was it, a certain moment for you, or was it a certain time period, in 2016, 17, some over that, or how was it?
Yeah. So I feel like there's also like different levels to this, because there's like, you want the pros to have the respect, so you need a pro that has that respect from people. And then there's also, for me, gaining the respect of other kendama brand owners, which I felt was actually the longest thing to get the respect for. Like, our players got the respect pretty early on. As a brand, like, the difference between, it's like, I feel like now, for example, people are like, oh, it's just Sol Kendamas. Like, Sol Kendamas is, it's a brand. But like, there was points where people were like, dude, you gotta try a Sol Kendama. Like, oh, this is great. You're gonna love the shape. You're gonna love this. I feel like for the brand, just getting the respect it deserved might have been 2018 or 19, like 4 years or 5 years, where I felt like, okay, like people respect the brand, they like what we're doing. And for the pro players, we added Kevin DeSoto, and in 2016 he got his first pro model, and we released it at MKO, now in AKO. And adding a player like Kevin, who had the respect of the community already, he had proven himself. He was a pro for Yumu, like making a lot of amazing edits. Earlier that year, he won Battle at the Border Open Division 2016. So it was like, we had the player that had the respect. And I think any brand could start and like add a player that is respected in the community instantly. Like, I think that would maybe speed the process up a bit for like, oh, okay, like if they have a well-respected player, like I have respect for this brand or this company. It's so yeah, it's 2016. Like I think KD was our first player. And I'm like, okay, like without a doubt, well respected. A pro mod makes sense, and it did, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, probably 2018 or 19. Once we started making, we made our own shape. I think it was 2017, the Sol shape, and so that before that, majority of brands used a factory standard shape, something very similar to this. And then the only thing that would be different is the logo, and then whatever Tama design. And so like from 2017, we kind of started like, okay, they're making something like truly unique. Whereas for a lot of brands, like, oh, it kind of have the same shapes. So in 2017 for us, like a step towards that. And then in 18, we started, I think that's when we did the collab with Slayers Club. And then we did one with Find Your Wings. And so started like working with other people and kind of gaining, you know, a little bit more popularity. And then 2019, we released the One Up, and then we, you know, started doing bigger collaborations. And like we did some cushion cleared pro models, and we got Lab collab came out in 2019. So there's a lot of really big things. Linens Pro Mod, which was our second Pro Mod, came out in 2019. So that's when it really started to feel like, okay, we got something like really cool here. And yeah. And then like respect from other like kendama owners. That one took the longest. I felt like maybe like I don't even know, like, and maybe other kendama brand owners are listening to this, so like don't feel that way. But like you feel like it's so hard to like get in there and earn your way in. Maybe because I was a kid, because I started playing kendama when I was 14. So it was like maybe I was like grommy. I don't know. I never thought I was, but you know, like starting a kendama brand at 18 as well, it's like you just have to like show, I guess, to older people or people who have been in it before you, you're like, I'm in for the long haul. And I think once everyone saw that, and I feel like at this point, like I have the respect of every kendama brand owner. Like I can talk to anyone confidently, and like we've got good relationships, but I had to like prove myself and like earn that respect, and it took a very long time.
You think you had a pivotal moment with that, with earning that respect from other team owners, team companies? Did you have any specific time period, any moment, a turning point there you're like, oh, okay, sweet, like we're here now? Like anything?
Not like a specific hard moment, like adding KD would be like, oh yeah, we got good respect for a pro right here. Or like, you know, like I mentioned about like 2017 getting our own shape. But like little moments, I think, with each owner that I just through being involved, being at events, collaborating, conversations, like FaceTime calls, like things like that. Battle at the Border is one of those. Like it's just become an event now where it's like if you're involved in kendama in the US especially, you got to be there to be in on the action. And like if you have a brand, like you want your brand to be involved, you need to, because this is like one of the two biggest comps in the US, and everyone who loves kendama is there. And so yeah, just conversations through Battle of the Border and sponsorships for other events. You know, like NAKO, MKO, like we've been sponsoring them since the beginning of their event. And so yeah, I think just like, let's say you're starting a new brand, and you don't know anybody, or you haven't gotten deep, like just it takes a long time, 4 or 5 years. Just show that you're like, okay, we're bringing some value, we're doing something new, we care, we're invested, and don't expect anything. Just go in and do it for the passion, the love of kendama, and it'll work out.
That's a really, really, you know, I think that's great for everybody to hear. I really, that's awesome for me to hear too. I mean, about the fact that, you know, you're acknowledging that, for Sol to get that respect and to get that level of respect that everybody it comes into kendama now, and they're like, okay, yep, Sol, main company, boom, like the 100 already, it's already one of the main companies And you're acknowledging like, yeah, it took a long time. It took 4 to 5 years of still being in the game, still putting in effort. Like you said, not expecting anything in like return for any specific thing, but just really trying hard for 4 to 5 years straight. Like it doesn't happen overnight. And it didn't happen overnight. I mean, like I said, I started out with knowing Sol and I was like, that's literally a fake company. They have 10
Yeah,
followers.
yeah, yeah. We've come a long way, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's epic to hear that. And you did mention Battle of the Border.
Yeah.
Battle of the Border has been, I mean, what came first? The idea for Soul or Battle of the Border as a
Battle
comp?
of the Border. The
Okay,
first one was like December 2011. So I
Yeah.
call that the 2012 Battle at the Border. Like if we're just going by like the January start of
Mhm.
the year, because it's become that now. But like, I think because my introduction to kendama was through Tyler, Jake Ween's cousin. The first videos that I did watch online were his. And so like I started watching his videos. I'm like, oh, kindergarten battle, that looks cool. Like I want to do that.
Mhm.
So in 2011, I hosted like a smaller event in like September, something like that, in like Zaxby's parking lot, like 20, 30 minutes from my house. We probably had like 9, 10, maybe 11 other kids from the school show up. And it was kind of like as kendama, the interest in my school was kind of like slowing down. But then that following December, I partnered with Tyler and then a couple of my friends who were really into kendama, and we hosted the first Battle of the Border. We had like, it was like 15 people in a garage. You probably remember John Ross Rudolph, one of my good friends.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah.
way back in the day, we were
Yeah.
part of the kendama squad, was like our
Yep.
like team name. So we would share a lot of videos, and so we hosted that event alongside Tyler that December. And every year after that, I continued to host the event. And like we didn't even have a name. Like there was no name for Battle at the Border the first like 2 years. I think it was 2014 that we coined the name.
Huh?
And then yeah, it was in Tennessee, then Kentucky, and then back in Tennessee. And then in 2015, so it was like the year after we started Soul, we had a little bit of money to invest in the venue. And that's when we moved to Nashville.
Yeah.
And yeah, from 2015 on, it like jumped incredibly. I think that year we might have had like, the attendance is somewhere online, but around like 80 to 100 maybe. That first year we like went to a venue in a bigger city, so it's easier to access, more people can drive there or fly there. And so really just from that first event, every year continued to do it, took notes on like how to improve, or maybe took a couple ideas, how can we change this, what can we add, but kept hosting. And yeah, like 15 and then 30, and then all of a sudden we jump, there's 80, and then 120, then 150, and then 150 again, and then 250, and then 300. And then we were online, and then we broke streaming records with Sweets Kendamas whenever we did the like the Battle of the Border online. It was 2021. And like, yeah, we had 1,024 people live watching the finals. That was insane. And like, yeah, Sweets and like Cody's over there, like, this is insane. And then the following year, like, we're like, all right, like, we kind of want to go back in person, but we're the first ones to kind of really do this at this level. And we took a risk. We did it. And like, there's 400 people. We're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Then the next year's like 500. I'm like, dude, oh my gosh. And then this year we had 500 like bracelets and like tote bags and everything. We ran out of bracelets like 30 minutes to an hour in on the first day. So I'm like, like 500 plus, could be 550. There was a guy working the doors like, yeah, I'm good with crowds, I'd say it's 600. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had no way of knowing exactly how many, but like I can't even believe that it's gotten that big, because like that was never a goal. It was just I wanted to like host another one next year and just kept doing that. So Battle at the Border is wild, and it's a good time, and I really enjoy hosting it. It is probably the most stressful thing I think every year for me, because it takes a lot. Like 600 500 to 600 people is a lot of people in the same building, and like all the money people spend to travel, and like people are coming from 13, 14 other countries now. And so it's like, there's an expectation there. And so I'm like, okay, like we gotta put a lot of focus, a lot of time and effort into making sure this is a great event for everyone. And so it's gotten to be a big deal. Yeah.
Massive
It's a huge
deal.
deal.
I mean,
Just to compare right now, I actually have one of your most iconic videos that you've ever made, in my opinion.
Oh,
Battle of the Border 2014 Kendama competition on the Kendama
yes.
squad.
such a great video.
On the Kendama Squad YouTube account,
Thank
you
you.
can check out what Battle of the Border used to look like. You can. It's a pretty easy video to find because it has 410.
Let's go. By the way, I filmed and edited that.
Yeah, that's
And hosted the event.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is just in a band room.
And
Yeah,
there's
so Calvin Warren was
yeah.
he was a like high school band director, and he hooked it up the local high school with the room. Really good time, man. And honestly, I owe it to people like Christian Frazier. He's been every single year, and he's always been an out of town. Like he travels in for it. So
Yeah, wow.
hey, he's the only other person. Me and Christian, the only two people that have been to every one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally have, there's maybe 20 people here. I don't know. William Penniman and Jake Fisher are winning all the mini games. It's actually but yeah, this is just, it's just funny to compare now, like what it's gone into and what is actually possible. You know, what is actually truly possible if you keep going and keep hosting the next one and just keep providing for the community. It could really turn into something big, and for Battle of the Border it did. And so yeah, it's just incredible to watch and kind of go down memory lane here, just seeing what it was and what it's become. So
yeah. It's a huge deal. I mean, you said it's one of the biggest events in the US. I mean, it's definitely the biggest event. You know, it's definitely the biggest event in my opinion. And and it's just so cool to hear the story about this because you know at first we were talking about the longevity of you as a player. You've been playing since 2010, but you have the longevity as a brand and as an event host. I mean, the event,
That's crazy.
you get the triple trifecta on that. Like you literally, I had the triple trifecta on that.
Yeah.
You're just showing what results you can get if you really put in the work over a long period of time. And like literally that Battle of the Border event video, 410,000 views. It was your third one, and you had like 20 people. You know, third. You probably had 20 people. Looks like, and that was after 3 years of doing it. And you know, fast forward 7 years later, you're literally at the biggest event, 550, 600 people. It's actually just incredible. So what you can say it's the most stressful thing you do each year, you know, is for example, this year, you know, you keep saying how you take notes and you know how to make it better and how to adjust it. Of course, it's getting bigger and bigger, and so that's always a new challenge. What was a big challenge? I mean, this year specifically for you, that was like, okay, this is the main area I need to focus on. Or
For me, one of the hardest things is the day one check-in, just getting everybody in there and then starting the event and like kicking it off. That is like probably the biggest hurdle for me, just because like, and I probably just need to get more volunteers, honestly, like that might be it. But like getting all the vendors in, okay, everyone's where they need to be, you have your table, awesome. Like, okay, I have all my videos that are going to premiere. I'm with the tech guy, the audio guy. Like, you have everything you need? Okay, awesome. And then like my teams will ask me like, yo, can I get a setup from the table? I'm like, let's figure this out later. Like, but I'm like, get these? Okay, awesome. And then it's like, okay, doors open in 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, do it. We have everyone in their place for this. Yeah, you're good. We're good. Awesome. I think that is just that moment right there. And then once everything starts going, the stress goes away. They're like, it's just that first like 2-3 hours that is like, I don't know. It's just the build up. I mean, everyone outside, the anticipation is also like that. Like everyone's like, you know, I show up at like whatever it is. Like, let's say doors open at 11. I'm there at like 8 or 9, and there are people there already waiting to get in. I'm like, guys, I haven't even got the tables in the door yet. Like, hold up. Like, so I think for me, like when I say it's stressful, like I'm not stressing the months leading up, the weeks leading up, the days leading up. It's literally just that first like couple of hours. And then like day 2, the stress is like almost non-existent. Like I got KD by my side running the bracket. You know, Jake is stepped up, got all the DJs organized. I'm like, yeah, once everybody's there and we're all set up, we're chilling. It's a great time.
Yeah.
But that first day is always like, everyone's like, yo, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm just running. I'm just gotta do this real quick. Like,
Yeah.
people be like, dude, are you having a good time? I'm like, yeah, I just gotta make sure everyone else is. Like,
Yeah,
like people, like some people save up for a whole year, 2 years to make it out to these events. And so I'm like, it's a lot of pressure, but not in a bad way. Just I gotta show up and give everyone a good time. Yeah. So yeah, I do want to say is the one thing you asked, like, what are some things, you know, I was thinking about things for next year that I wanted to change. Is it cool if I like share a couple of those?
Please.
You guys? So EKC, I mean, come on, dude, what a great event, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So we've had a invite freestyle for like maybe 3-4 years now. And for us, it's been a time scheduling commitment because with 500, 600 people and 2 days, unless you like open up that third day like in a KO, it's like hard to do a freestyle, right? And especially qualifying, and sometimes Sweets does the full bracket style, which is like so long.
Yeah.
But after EKC, I'm like, I can't not do a prelim and the qualifying, and like you got to earn that spot, and like, dude, the music, the show, the tricks, the crowd, like everything is so good about that. Like we're doing prelims, we're doing a qualifying.
Okay.
Yeah, and no invited players. I think the only person is the winner from last year deserves an invite, and then everyone else just has to earn their way through the qualifiers. I think that's the best way. It's like you start giving these seated spots, and then there's like 12 people have to qualify, and it's like, dude, that window just got so much shorter.
Yeah.
The people who get the qualifying or the seated spots, they're gonna qualify. Like 9 out of 10 times, they're gonna get that spot, like no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think the previous year's champion, they get the seated spot, and that's it.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. I talked with Katie about this. I brought Katie on as an official co-host, which I'm so excited about. That's also going to help with taking some of that like pressure off day one, because now there's at least 2 of us where it's like, hey, if there's a problem and I'm busy, talk to Kevin. And then Marley Griggs from originally Hone Media, now he's just like an Atlanta local kendama homie. He also said that he would like to help with a bit of the kind of like the show, or at least like the organization of the event the day of. So he's going to be helping me with media and like technical stuff. And then Kevin's going to be helping with co-hosting, like big, like scheduling big problems, whatever it is, like the brackets, all of that. And so I'm getting more help next year, which is going to be great. We're going to be doing prelims and qualifiers, and I'm just moving some stuff around. We're going to start a little earlier in the morning. We're going to try and like smoothen the check-in process a bit more. So like all these little things, little tweaks I've done every single year. And I'm hoping 2025 is just like, I want people to leave saying, oh, that was definitely the best one.
Yeah.
And that's happened. Like, it feels like that's happened every year where people leave and they're like I've just heard this from people say like, dude, that was amazing. I just don't know how did I have more fun than last year? Or like, or say like, man, this is my favorite event. Like, that is the hugest compliment to me. It's like all the time that I pour into it, and or even the years like that it's taken to get here, and someone tells me it's their favorite event, I'm like, man, that makes me happy. Like,
yeah, such a great feeling that must be. I mean, dude, I mean, it's definitely the event now that I look forward. It's one of the events I look forward to the most to. Now, and I remember Nick and I first came in 2017.
Yeah,
it was still like I mean, you guys had a venue back then, and it wasn't at Rocket Town. That's another question I want to ask. Are you going to do it at Rocket Town again?
Yeah, so we'll be back at Rocket Town, same building. There's been like talk the past 2 years that they were going to sell it, but then like management there's like a whole new like head of management, like new organization within the thing. And like the next year, the guy was like, oh yeah, we're not going anywhere. Like, we're not leaving. I was like, really? Okay. I'm like, great. I'm like, we'll be back. So yeah, we're definitely going to be back. And if they do end up selling, I'll figure something out. That'll be a massive hurdle at this point.
Right.
But luckily the venue has been good for us. I think it can still hold a few more people. So
Yeah.
with people being inside and outside, it helps a lot. But yeah, we'll be back at Rocketown.
Yeah. What
Nice.
would it take, just capacity wise? What would it take for you to be like, oh wow, I need to look for a new venue? What do you think? What numbers do you think you need to hit?
I mean, even like let's say we had 600 this year, 750 still feels like okay, we can do this. Maybe 800, but if it got above 800, I would definitely have to like
Yeah.
I would have to, especially like I don't know. It's also interesting finding a balance with vendors too,
Right.
because like vendor space takes up a lot of space as well in the venue. It's important though because sponsorships, and so there's like this balance of like the attendance, the sponsors, the vendors, how much stage time we have, how many people can fit on stage to compete. We have 6 decks going on stage, which is like might be the most out of any open division. I know, yeah, NACO does have that long stage. They probably do 6 as well, something like that. But most comps will have 2 going, maybe 4. Like, dude, we got 6 matches going like all day on day 2, double a limb too. So it's like so many different factors where it's like, yeah, I mean, it's one question is like, okay, if we have 800 people in the venue, but it's another, it's like, dude, what if our pro open division had 250 people? Then it's like, do we look into single a limb? Do we go a 3rd day? Do we, there's like, and there's no wrong answer, right? Because it's, again, kendama is still so new.
Right.
The fact that we're even doing open division just because Dama Fest did open division, like, or JKA did open division, like whatever reason, this has become like our format.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everything's still so new. Like we could change anything, and I think it would be okay. But it's kind of again that feeling of like, what's right? What do we need to do? Like, so just kind of going along with that, seeing what people like, and just trying to do more of that and improve it to the best of our abilities. So,
have you thought of implementing a new comp style at all, ever?
At this point, it would just, I think a lot of people would be turned off from it, but like, we've definitely, like, freestyle's gone from 7 to spike to the catch and flow style, I guess we could call it. And so that's been a good change. And like, we have done the bracket style, freestyle. We've done the prelim qualifiers, maybe even 2017, maybe 2018, we might have done that. At the Foundry, that other venue. We've done single limb, double limb. We've kind of like tweaked around with it, but I've never been like a step towards like, let's just complete like KWC style, like competition, like nothing big like that, but a lot of like smaller things and like how the bracket is ran can be done very differently. But no, we haven't like, open division's definitely like, if you're crowning the champion, they want open division. Like that's the champion. And then freestyle as well now is like, oftentimes people view like, oh, there's 2 winners every event. Like there's not one. Like back in the day it was like there was 1 and then like 7
right.
Like, so a lot of people are like, yeah, freestyle and open equally difficult. That's 2 champions like this. Some people still are like, no, open division's the one. Sorry, like freestyle's freestyle. But if they have the same cash prize, I don't know. There's a lot that you could say about that, I guess. Maybe it's opinionated, but
it's so true. I mean, I remember back in the day, their open division was like, you're the winner, and freestyle was like, it's kind of like a side comp winner.
Yeah, it feels like it felt like a side comp.
And it's like, you're the freestyle winner, but the open division is actually the event champ, and the freestyle is like a separate thing.
Yeah.
But now it's huge. I mean, now so many more people prefer freestyle than open.
Yeah.
And I mean, the state, it's really, really difficult to win either. So
yeah, they're both insanely difficult, and like most of the time, I think you guys have talked about this. Like those top 8 are kind of the same people most of the time. Yeah. There's always 1 or 2 that like find their way in, and we're like excited, like whoa,
yeah.
They did it. Oh, they're here. Let's see. Is it gonna happen? So one thing I think is really interesting, and I like this, and it's cool because it separates the 2 events very well. But NAKO and battle. So for battle, day 1 is freestyle, day 2 is open. And for the competitive player, that's a good mindset to be in. Like, okay, I know what's happening today. It's freestyle. I'm just going to be kind of going through my tricks.
Yep.
And it might be like near the end of the day, but I know what I got to do. And like, I can kind of like plan that out well. Day 2, obviously you're like, I got to be on all day, but at least I know it's just open division.
Right.
This is for battle. And for NACO, having 3 days, it's so different, but like you're doing a little bit of everything every day. And one thing that's really cool about that is like level 1 tricks, level 2 tricks, level 3 tricks. There's this sense of progression, and also like being on 3 days in a row. People talk about like, you got to be on 3 days in a row. Like, even as if you're just a vendor and a spectator, 3 days of standing, you're after the day 1, you're like, oh, I'm so tired. You're like, day 2, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do it again. And you finish day 2. Day 3, you're like, we're again, like 3 days in a row.
Yep.
But for players that are like competing and like staying home and like making sure you like make sure I have food, making sure I like am hydrated and my hands aren't just like gross and sweaty, like all day for 3 days is so hard. And then like you just like roughly have an idea of like freestyle is like tonight, but we're doing open like most of the middle of the day, and the tricks are going to get harder tomorrow. Like that's so difficult and so hard, but it's so cool to have like 2 very different events that are doing like the same style competition, but just like so different in the way that, you know, like the way that we as players compete in those and like think about them. I don't know. I just think it's cool to like have that variety. And with like 400 plus people, or I guess we could say like the Pro Open 100 to 150 pro players, you know. So wild.
For NACO, and especially for those who go to compete and to go for going really hard at the pro division or amateur or whatever, whoever makes it to the final day. I mean, you really are just on all day, every day. And different comp experience than to many others, you know, because other people are maybe in the lower divisions, maybe they're not to compete, maybe just have socialized and hanging out in the courtyard. So they're just having a completely different experience than you, because you're on practice with your squad all day, and you don't turn that switch off until you're either out or you're done with your matches for the entire evening. So it's a marathon, and I felt that at like the past couple NAKOs for me personally. So I'm actually really excited to see how BATB goes this year with just focus on freestyle and then focus on open. It's going to be, I think it's a lot easier to piece together in a pro's mind about what I have to worry about today and what I don't. Because when it's freestyle and open at the same time, at least for me, it's just like, okay, got to do this. Got to do just my hardcore, just set tricks for a couple hours, and then, oh, I'm done. But you know, I got my creativity or something like that. You know, you got to balance both. And so I'm excited to go to Battle of the Border and just kind of have it a lot easier, just to focus on like what to focus on, what's to come. So it's easier to understand.
Yeah, and with the qualifiers as well. One thing that I'm like so excited about this, because I think it really will just change a lot about the event. Like day 1, and we're video premieres last year went way too long, and even at EKC I noticed it's like an hour and a half, and it was cool to do video premieres back in the day when there was 1 or 2 videos, a pro announcement, everyone's blown away. Now it's become like we lose the hype. You get in the door, you're excited, and then it's like an hour and a half. People are talking, like maybe even 60-70% of people aren't even watching. So like video premieres this year, I'm going to keep to the biggest and most important announcements only. And then hopefully, I think 20 minutes, 30 minutes max is my goal. Right after that, so it'll be the first thing everyone comes in. So like, welcome to Battle of the Border, video premieres. Right after that, we start freestyle qualifiers. It's the first thing. And so we're going to go through it. And after the qualifying, like after all the groups are done, change the stage. We're doing beginner, intermediate. The judges are going to go back, tally up the scores. And then after beginner and intermediate, which could be like 2 hours roughly, freestyle judges come back out. We have our top 16. We do the announcement. Top 16 freestyle happens that night. Like, you have a 2-hour window. It's going to be intense, because like, I think the only time I've seen this, Catch and Flow obviously does this, where there's like this intermission period after the groups are done. And then EKC, when Crom hosted back in Denmark, they had like a lunch, like a 2-3 hour window. It's so excited to have that, like, who's going to make it? Like, the conversations are happening at lunch, or, like, people are just like trying to figure out, they're like, okay, these 12 for sure, but then like it's a toss up.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the energy in the room, and like to come out and like announce those players. They come on the stage and it's like, all right, our first match is like, that's going to be intense. So very excited for that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's gonna be epic.
Gosh, I can't
Yeah.
wait for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that concept. Like, everybody's gonna be talking about who's gonna make it, and then they all get figured out. They get top 16 gets announced, and you actually battle that same day, which is so keeps the energy alive. If it keeps
It does. Yeah.
the energy alive the entire day, which
And
is
EKC does such a good job with that, right? But even then, they do prelims day one, and then you find out that you got to go to bed and like wake up the next day, like get to the venue and like at a certain time to figure out, did I make the cut? Like, I don't know. I feel like more stressful and like, but it makes sense. Their event is a freestyle focused event. Like,
right.
freestyle is for them, like what most people would be like, open is here. So they're a freestyle comp. They're like the side comps open, actually. I think that's cool too. Like having that. Yeah, the variety in the three big events outside of KWC, like BATB, EKC, NACO, like they're all doing the same thing, but way different. And I love that.
True.
It's so cool.
That is so true.
Yeah, but yeah, we're gonna bring some of that energy to our side comp, the freestyle.
Yeah, side comp.
not opening day one with that. Like, nah.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's, what advice would you give to people who are looking to start their own event, or looking to be more, like, I guess it's just involved in their community in general? We see there's a lot of events this year who started for the first time, which is great. And I know there are more players out there who have that thought lingering, have that thought like, I want to do that too. What would your advice be to any of those players, as someone who's been doing it for 10 plus years?
Dude, I think I didn't get to go, but just watching from afar, I thought Tower Cup this year looked amazing, and it looks like the exact kind of event that I would have ran prior to having a venue.
Yeah.
Just, we're at a park, and ideally it's, free, or if you rent a pavilion or whatever the situation is. Like, if you're a vendor, you want to like sell stuff, just like bring a table, set it up. I think the way they approached that event was so great. But I think the most important thing from the ground up, just the expectation is like, let's get kendama players together and let's have a fun time. And if you want to put together divisions and you want to put together, brackets and all this, like, you can do that. But like, I think starting out, just like, let's get a group together, right? And if you want to if your goal, your vision is like, I want to have a big event, an annual event, like in the future, that is like Battle or NACO, I think hosting every year is very important. Just choose a time of year you're like, okay, I feel like this is good, I like this. Maybe you can get a venue that time of year. Maybe it's just good weather outside, and like choose a time of year. Choose like a solid name, something that sounds good. Maybe it's related to like the area. Maybe there's some kind of concept or theme that you want to run the event by. Like, I started doing an event, Throwback kendama Open, like a while ago in the summer, and it was speed ladder based. And this year I was like, people thought it was Tennessee kendama Open. I changed it, race to lace. It's just the idea of like, who can land the trick quickest. And for speed ladder event, that sounds sick. So I'm calling it race to lace. Great name for event. You get the concept, like just whoever's quicker. So yeah, find a good name, host it every single year, and maybe 5 people show up, maybe 10 people show up. Depends like where you host it, how long you announce it ahead of time, like how much you publicize it. I think prizes aren't as big of a deal as people think, like at least initially. Like later on, yeah, of course you need, prizes, and like companies are always willing to send prizes, but you also need to like prove that you can like host an event, get people together before expecting a brand to send you stuff. Because it's like, anyone could like say, hey, I'm hosting an event in this park this weekend, like, can you send prizes? But if you do it, and you're like, hey, I got a group of 30 people together. Next year, I'm hosting an event on this day. Give like an itinerary, a good plan, like
Yep.
form a nice solid plan, get people together, and then bring it for sponsorship and get brands involved. And it takes time, like Battle at the Border of the first year had like 15 people in a garage. Just one of my friends, one of the hosts at the time, was like, hey, my grandpa said we could use his garage. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Like we went and cleaned it, and that was like our battleground. Like so start small, and I think it's mostly about just getting people together to have a good time. And I don't know, like if you were to just come out the gates with this like big concept for a big event, like thinking about money and prizes and sponsors, and like that's so hard to do. You're just like, I mean, yeah, it's like starting Konami. You're like, I'm going to compete in Pro Open, and it's like takes a while to get there. It's the same thing as running a brand. It's like start out easy and start with the basics. Like,
Yep.
Konami players want to get together and play Konami. Okay, that's a nice place to start.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
a time, a place, and a name. I think as well, there's like jams and events. Jams are just meetups. Like, let's go play Kendama. And if you want to host an event, it's not bad to like start with a jam, but jams just have a like, if it's a weekly jam or like a bi-weekly jam, there's a thing there. Like, oh yeah, I can always expect this to be here. But if you want to take something, you're like, I want it to be an event, there's like very specific, like you have to have the divisions and you have to have tricks set up ahead of time, or whatever the style event is. If it's kin tournaments, then you can do that. But
Right.
I think if you were to like start with a jam and try and transition, it might be a little confusing for people. So I think it just depends what you're trying to achieve and what you want to do. But I say just get out there and do something. Try it. Don't go too hard though. Just try and do something.
Learning through the experience, I think is
Yeah.
yeah.
There
you go.
I think people try to do too much, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
They think they have to do too much. And
Yeah,
then
you don't
overwhelmed.
have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Point is just starting, seeing what happens, learning from the experience, the successes, failures, and then slightly improving as your time goes by. And then boom, you might have 600 people at your event, 10 years later, right? So
It's happened before.
it's happened before.
Living proof.
Yeah, Chad, awesome. And I think another just transition here to a different point that I want to cover. Something that, and we've talked about this before. We talked about this in Japan, just about how you fostered such a great and long-lasting team. I think you are one of the best people to get advice from when it comes to running a sponsor team. What are the most important aspects that goes into that? How do you choose people, and overall how you can make a great team dynamic, because your team is so special in the way that everyone gets along so well and has gotten along for so long, and you haven't really had people leave too often, and it's just an overall incredibly friendly environment. If you could have a couple points, like what are some of your best points going into those and fostering a great team?
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. Love the team. They're all great. And I think that foundation that Shelton and I built early on when we started Sol, we chose the first 6 players. And from that, like first 6, 5 of them did leave. I think we've had maybe 7 people leave Sol in total. But 5 of those were from that first batch. Lyndon was the only one from those like first 6 that's still around and playing now.
Right.
Kevin was like a momentum shift in like picking players that are like, oh, this person's really passionate about kendama, and his personality is really good, and we get along really well. Like, I think meeting Kevin and getting to know who he was initially was like, I really like this guy. I want to spend more time with him. He's also really good at kendama. That was an awesome plus. And a free agent too. We added him, and like the team culture starts to just mold around the people that are on the team. And so, like, if you're thinking about the 2 longest players on the team, Lyndon and Kevin, think about their personality and just like spending time with them in person. Like, oh, they're just enjoyable people to spend time with, and you have good conversations with them. They're not very strongly opinionated on things that, you know, for kendama, like we're meeting up to play kendama, like those things don't matter if you're really strongly opinionated about certain things and you're just always talking about those things. It's like kind of hard to like focus on, like, hey, we want to get better kendama, we want to play kendama, we want to enjoy time together. Like everyone on the team, I think, is coming, you know, to events and coming just together every time we meet up with positive energy and like excitement. And I think that's huge. So starting out with, yeah, Kevin and Lyndon, and then we added Kelvin and Alex and J-Man, and like they were a bit younger at the time. And so like, I don't know if, you know, if you're younger, maybe you just kind of like try and fit the culture. It just kind of like happened so seamlessly. It feels like there was no like strong intentions to like, we got to make sure everyone is perfect. It's more so that feeling, I think,
Right.
of just kind of like who feels right. And we just got to know everyone personally very well before they joined the team. And then we took everyone's opinions into consideration, like when adding new players. So it would be a unanimous decision when it came to adding a new teammate. And maybe there's a couple times where there's like a player or two that are like, I am vouching so heavy for this person. This person's so good. Promise me, even though, like, let's say you haven't had the chance to spend time with them, I've spent enough time, and I promise you, they're going to fit in so well. You're going to love them. Like their intentions are right. Their trajectory and kendama, I just feel like it's a good moment. We've had a few of those as well. And someone like Rudney, like we didn't meet him before adding him, but we knew we wanted a European player. He was supporting and repping Sol. Colin Hislop recommended Rudney to us whenever we were doing the Sol House. It was like, I think June, July of 2021. And at the time we were like, yeah, like we need to add some European players. Just want it to be the right, you know, the right decision. We don't want to just jump into this and add someone who's really good, and then we spend time with them and we're like, oh gosh, like, because it's gonna be, you know, rough. Because that's important. Like we go on these trips, we're hanging out all weekend long, sometimes weeks in a row. And so we hit the lottery with Rudney, I gotta say. Like Rudney was a lottery win. Shout out Colin Hislop for the recommendation there. But yeah, just a few DM exchanges with him, and you can kind of just get a little bit of someone's personality, just a little bit through, you know, text and through Instagram. But like when we met him in person, we were like, oh my gosh, this guy is a legend. He's so funny, so full of energy, and like so good at kendama now. Like it's crazy how much he's improved over the years. And yeah, like same with Tom. Like we kind of met Tom briefly at EKC, but like Liam and Alex were vouching heavy for him. Gino was vouching heavy for him, and a lot of other players who didn't get the chance to meet him. It's like, okay, I trust Kevin, you know, fully, or I trust Alex and Liam fully. Like we have that kind of connection, as I trust your word. And so it's been a lot of that for situations where we can't all meet a new player. Right. But yeah, just being very mindful about the foundation of who you add, and that definitely just forms and continues as a brand grows. And so yeah, starting with Kevin, huge. Out in Japan, like we started with Mizuki and Ayumu. Like what great people to start a foundation. And again, like kendama skill was not the focus there. Yeah. Like purely like two people that are kind, passionate for kendama, and just easy to get along with. And also like they're in a room and people are just, I don't know, like brightened by them being there. Then all of a sudden we have Madi and Noah and Rin. I'm like, oh my gosh. And Juryu is like almost qualified 3 years in a row for KWC. Yeah. He got 89 points. He qualified in my books, you know. Yeah, people get in with 74, 73 points or whatever. Like he got 89. So it's crazy to me if we're just thinking about the Japan team situation like that. Where like we start with Ayumu and Mizuki, and if you had ever told me we had a third place winner at KWC, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
That's wild. Because it wasn't the goal, but it just happened naturally. Like Monty was drawn to Sol.
Yep.
And it's that foundation that we put for the team. And who knows what our European team will look like years down the road. But I can tell you, Tom and Rudney, what a great foundation.
100%. It just sounds like it sounds like you don't force anything and you allow
Yeah.
to be a group decision, or at least decisions that are made by people you really trust and you built a strong relationship with over a long period of time, months to years. And I think that's a mistake that people tend to make with adding players. I think it might be common, just jumping the gun, just kind of getting excited and adding someone too early on. And, that has a chance of, if you don't know them very well, maybe you haven't met them, and, things can go a different way than you expected. So I think just, trusting your gut feeling and waiting a little bit longer to just see if everything's going to be okay, or as correct as they could be. But yeah, I think everything, like you said, it just a lot of it's come down to your feeling.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The development of most of your players has been amazing to watch. I mean, it's not like Nick said, and like you touched on, it's not like you're picking players right off the get-go because they're already like demons at kendama. Like that's not, it's like,
Yeah.
I love how you put it earlier. You're like that, you're talking about KD. You're like, yeah, I really expect time this guy. Plus he's like, and he's really good.
Oh yeah.
I really like how you put that. I've always thought, I thought about that too. And I think skill, of course, very, very appealing, right? Like very appealing. You put a lot of time and dedication into kendama. You're very good. Huge. That says a lot.
Yeah.
But the thing that you keep repeating again and again and again and keep highlighting is like, how well do we get along? How is this person's character? How do we get along as a team? Who is this person? How do we interact with each other as people first? And then the
Yeah.
huge plus, if you also happen to be Mahdi, or if you also happen to be like team, Alex Mitchell, who already are demons economic, that's great. But the first thing primarily is the person first character, then it's like a huge bonus that they're already like insane at Dama. And even if they're not at first, your team is a huge testament to a lot of players who weren't literally the top players in their era when you first sponsored them. It's not like they were like super top at the top of the game and of the world when you first, but they developed into very, very skilled players, and that took a couple years. Just like basically the whole theme of this podcast, like, it takes time.
Dude, that's right. Yeah, I guess so. Like Kelvin, when we added him, I never would have expected he would be the competitive force that he is today.
Right.
Which is unreal. And then there's players like Alex, who at the time was like, man can film a hard trick, but put him on stage, no shot. Like I don't know if it's his nerves, whatever. Like he just was, he's not a competitor. He films tricks. But then now, like number one ranked player in the world, based on 365's ratings last year, like that's insane to think that like at one point we just kind of like accepted that he wasn't good at competing. He figured it out. Like he did it. And like one time I recently, I might have even asked him, like, I'm like, did you even like want to be good at competing, or like did this just kind of like happen? He's like, I can't remember his answer like word for word, but I think it was just like, yeah, I never really wanted to like be a competitor, but like just going to kendama events and trying and like just participating for him. And he has the skill. He had the 10,000 plus hours from ages 11 to 18 where he just played all day, every day, mindlessly for fun, like just because he wanted to. He wasn't trying to become a really good player. He just enjoyed it. And I guess the time thing, like I guess Alex's skill is literally no expectations, just putting the time in, and like it proved to work later on when he needed it, like
it's the byproduct of just pure enjoyment. And that's another thing that we touched on in the past too, a little bit. It's like all these players, all these amazing players, and Alex genuinely is, in my opinion, he's the best player in the United States, right now. And him, along with all the other super top players right now from Japan, whatever country you may be. I mean, it's just people can look at these players and say like, wow, they're super talented. It's awesome. Like they're super talented from the get-go, or like they're robots, or no, they just put in time in you, not just for like a month, 3 months, 6 months. They've been putting more time in than 99% of players for multiple years on end and on end. And that just accumulates to just a massive skill gap. And it's just deserving. It's like the more time you put in, the more feedback you're going to get, the better you're going to get. And I really think I heard a quote recently, and it was really just saying how true talent is just how to the degree of how much someone really loves something. And really because I think that is huge. And that's why, Alex, you just said he played all day every day for like 7 years straight. He
Yeah.
wouldn't he
And
wasn't
that's not even an exaggeration.
yeah.
Literally, from
Yeah.
11-18, playing kendama, sun up to sundown, exclusively.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
And he wasn't trying to be the best. He just enjoyed it. Like, it was fun for him, and the results are incredible. Once he started, like, okay, how do I actually get better at competing? Kevin's like, hey, breathe a little bit, and then he's like, oh, okay, he does that, and all of a sudden the nerves go away.
noted.
It's like, oh, wow, just a little bit of coaching, on little things, and then he's figured out a lot on his own. Like, even freestyle, like, he couldn't do freestyle for a long time. Even after he was doing good in open, he's like, I'm just not a freestyle player. But then he tried something and it worked. He's like, oh, okay, like, if I just write down a couple, tricks in my notebook or my phone, my notes app, like, right before I go on, he's like, okay, start with this, sandwich this, end with this, and then kind of freestyle everything else. And it
Yeah.
worked for him. Like, oh, sick, okay.
Yeah.
Where before he was like just getting up there and just doing whatever.
Right.
It's really, yeah, it's cool to see that. But man put time in, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. What is the favorite trip that you've been on with the team?
Wow.
The most well-traveled
Yeah.
players in the
Yeah.
This has got to be a hard question for you.
I think they also, this is cool, like, everyone who goes on these trips makes a very strong effort to do so. And I think Alex might be the only one that I've had to, like, beg to go on trips, because it's that talent that he has. It's hard to not see him somewhere, right? But like, everyone is like made a strong effort to get out to places, even when Sol has not paid for their flight. Like, I'll make sure to help in as many ways as I can. But a lot of these guys, like even J-Man for EKC last year, is like, bought his own flight. I'm like, okay, I'll make sure, like, I'll try and get a couple meals. I'll make sure your place is taken care of. Like, obviously you don't have to pay for the competition, like things like that. And it's good enough for me. Favorite trip. Okay. I would have to say, like, man, one of the most, like, iconic and memorable, probably the, like, Parks tour with Konami USA, the, like, collab tour, because the places we went were so unreal. Like, I don't know, that was just kind of like a wild, like, 2-3 weeks on the road, and seeing just some of the most beautiful places in America. It was half our team, like half Konami USA team. Really great time, really memorable. I think, like, early Japan days are always like so cool, because you just don't have any concept of what, like, like, another country and another culture, and knowing, like, only arigato, sumimasen, and konnichiwa.
Yeah.
Like, I think those early Japan days were like, all the experiences were just so new. Like, were probably the most magical as well. Early catch and flows too. And also when, like, I was still kind of like, Seoul has grown a lot in the past 5 years, 6 years. And I went to Japan for the first time 6 years ago. And so, like, also just getting to know, it's crazy. Before you go to Japan, like 6 to 10 Japanese players, like the best. Then you go and then you, like, really get to know everyone. And it's kind of like just opening up a whole new kendama community out there.
Yeah.
Like, really, because a lot of American players you just don't know. Like, you hear, you're like, okay, I know Takuya, I know Monty, I know Misu. There's like a handful that they have down. Someone will mention another name. Shinosuke is a great example. Some people are just like, I have no clue who that is. But yeah, you go to Japan and then you just start learning all these people and, like, seeing insane raw talent. So yeah, those early Japan days were like probably the most memorable, and then the Kendama USA Parks and Rec tour. Like,
Wow.
yeah,
Lennon mentioned the Parks and Rec tour being his favorite trip. Also, actually,
it's funny because I don't know. It's interesting because like the tour stops weren't big. It wasn't like a massive like tour for the community, but for like the players that were on that trip and going to these. I mean, this is like these are places that are on bucket lists, like people's bucket lists. Like,
Yeah.
I want to go here before I die. And we hit like 7 of them in 2 weeks, which is nuts. And like we had such a fun crew. And then yeah, just to like bring two Kendama brands together. Like Kendama USA, I entered their contest in 2011. Like if you would have told me like, oh yeah, you're gonna have a brand that's doing a tour with them, no shot. I would not have believed that at all. Like that's crazy. I entered their contest and like didn't make the cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And then I'm like emailing with Jero, splitting van, like how much is the van gonna cost? Like, you know, we have a spreadsheet that we're like putting the like our expenses on. I'm like, this is the not how I thought this would work out when I sent that video in 2011.
Full circle moment with that company. That's insane.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but those early Japan days, like with Liam and Alex and Lyndon and Kevin, just kind of like those are my OG, my core Dama team players, and like, yeah, just kind of figuring it all out. Yeah, it's
I had
great.
a feeling Japan would be on your list there. I had a feeling because you've been more than 10 times now, yeah?
Yeah, this last time was 11, so I've
11. 11.
finally. I'm gonna stop counting. People ask me, I was like, it's more than 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pretty much in only a couple of years because we had COVID, 29,
Yeah.
2021 through there. And then, I mean, you've gotten 10 times faster than probably anyone ever. And yeah, you clearly have a soft spot for the country and the players and the whole community. And so I want to talk about that a little bit because your time in
Yeah.
Japan has clearly changed you. It's the significant, the first time you went in 2018. I remember that you were there for some opportunity with your school, and Shimao took care of you.
Yeah.
And all the way till now. And I've heard that you have, plans to go out there soon and for an extended period of time, not just for an event for a month, but maybe for, a couple of months, 6 months.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
love to talk about that. But first, man, yeah, I mean, over the years, how has Japan changed you? What is it with the players you've added, with the relationships you made? I mean, what draws you to Japan so much?
Yeah. So 2018, I went for the first time, and the really I think like as a kendama player, we all dream of like going to the birthplace of kendama. You're not thinking Hatsukaichi, but like Japan, the country. And before going, like really all I knew about Japan, yeah, those couple of words, maybe just konnichiwa and arigato, those two.
Yeah.
And then like sushi, ramen, like maybe I heard the lure of a bullet train, maybe. But like, and yeah, the only players I knew were pretty much like, if they came to US, like Misu, Gotom, Kengo. So like that was me before going. Like, I just knew the guys who came out here. And so started college 2013, was in a 5-year program. During that 5-year program, I had every single summer's opportunity to do an internship or study abroad. And every year they would like pitch a place that the college would plan to go. And I just wasn't in love with any of them. And they were expensive, like pretty expensive to do these study abroads, but it was a requirement. And like there was hours assigned to the study abroad that were required to graduate. And so it was like a 2-hour thing for a study abroad and then a 2-hour course for the internship. And so, yeah, it was just every year they pitched a different place that I just wasn't in love with. And like, yeah, these trips would cost like anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000. And like, yeah, first year I'm like, not like maybe first year I was like, I've got 4 years, and then next year like I got 3 years. Like, oh, I don't like that place. Like, oh, that place doesn't sound good. I get all the way to my last year, and like I hadn't done it yet, and I like had a meeting with like the head of the department, and I'm like, I have an idea. Hear me out. Could I do an internship abroad for 2 months? So the requirement was internship for 2 months, study abroad for 2 weeks. And so I pitched the idea of the internship abroad for 2 months in Tokyo. And the head of the department said, we don't do this, but we like your idea. And if you do that, we'll sign off and you'll get your diploma. So they actually allowed me to walk in May. And then in June, I went to Japan for the first time. How that worked out, I met Shimao, who was an employee of Glocan. He was helping film KWC, and he came to MKO one year. I can't remember if it was 2017, probably 2017, since I graduated in 2018. So probably met him in 2017. Went to Van Jam. He was also there. And like, again, just fell in love with his personality. But like, he plays kendama, but he's not a kendama player like us. That's like, he's one of those guys that will like always sign up for intermediate and like not get to the finals.
Yeah.
But he's having a great time. He loves kendama and he's so involved. And I just loved his personality. He was hilarious, and he taught me Japanese. He's like, Watashi wa kendama ga suki desu. First sentence I learned. Like, I like kendama. And I think maybe I met him at Van Jam, and then MKO was the second time. I pitched him the idea. I was like, hey, I have to do an internship and I have to study abroad. I think just in conversation, he mentioned that he owned a business. It was like a graphic design, like web design business. And I studied landscape architecture. So in the design realm, they didn't really fit in the way that they should. Technically, like someone studying landscape architecture would never work for a web design company. But I talked to Shimao like, hey, I want to be involved. I want to come to Japan. Can we work something out? He said yes. I was like, amazing. He's like, I'll host you. You can work at my company. I'm like, amazing. So I go to the university. I pitch the idea, and I kind of just like maybe pitched it as like a design firm, but not specific to like what that is. Shimao does a lot, kind of is just design firm, but like definitely not landscape architecture. But I convinced him, or I asked him, and then I convinced the department. They said yes, approved. He said yes, and it happened. I went out for 2 months. I met Ayumu, who runs Moo Coffee, 5 minutes from where I was staying. And we had been wholesaling kendamas to him since 2014. So 4 years, he was a wholesale account at this cool random coffee shop in Tokyo. And I finally got to meet him. Like, also at the same time, I'd been working at a coffee shop for 2 years. So like my love for coffee in college started to develop near the end. Like, I finished the coffee job, went to Japan, like met Ayumu, like working with Shimao. I go to my first Japanese kendama events. I'm like meeting everyone, and like I just fall in love with the culture. I fall in love with the food. I instantly, like on that 2 month trip, I lost 20 pounds, and I swear I had ice cream almost every day.
Yeah.
Like, the food in America is so messed up. And in Japan, you don't have to try. You don't have to really think, unless you're like really indulging. Like, you can just like go day to day. I wasn't running. I wasn't lifting. I was doing nothing. I was just living and enjoying my food and eating whatever I wanted. Lost 20 pounds. I was like 220 at the start of the trip. Back home was like 200. And for me, that I'm like, dude, I want to go back. Like,
Yeah.
Of course, it was nice to be back home and like see family and everything. But like for me, the love from the people, the culture, learning the language, and like kendama it's so hard to tell if it's bigger in the US or bigger in Japan. It feels equally as big. I don't know. Like, there's so much rich history and culture in kendama there, but like when you're there, especially in Tokyo, I think you go to an event, a casual jam could have 60 people. You're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I grew up in a hometown of 1,500, and then you go to Tokyo, and Tokyo's like what, 37 million in population? I don't know the number, but
yeah.
some crazy number. It doesn't feel overwhelming when you're there. It sounds crazy, but when you're there, it doesn't feel that way. But like, I don't know, I just grew up in a very small area, and like that was the first time like living in a big city and like being able to walk everywhere, being able to just, navigate easily on my own without a car. And like, I don't know, I just fell in love with all of that, met amazing people. And I'm like, whatever next opportunity I get, I'm going back. Catch and Flow pops up. It's in December. I'm like, I gotta go. And then Kevin's like, freestyle is my thing. Like, we got to do this together. So Kev's like, let's make a jersey. We make a jersey. Kevin and I go out, and like, when I'm in Japan in December, I'm like, dude, this is, I don't know. You just like, every time you go, it's like better than the last time. You're like, how is this a better trip than last time? And I'm like, we need to add players out here, dude. Like, Shimao introduced me to like all of his friend groups, and in the same way introduced Sol, and Shimao was proud of Sol as if it was his own brand. Like, imagine presenting, like, I had the opportunity, someone who was deeply rooted in Japan and Japanese kendama, to just, hi, this is like sharing as if it's his own brand. He was so proud of it and proud of me. And like, the relationship with Shimao just instantly brought me into kendama. So I'm like, oh, we need to add players. And like, I met Mizuki that first time in the summer, like 2018. And her dad was like, oh, please sponsor my daughter. And I was like, oh yeah, like, sure. Like, it was like the first time meeting someone, and their parents were like, you should sponsor. I was like, oh yeah, sounds good. And then like Ayumu, just seeing how good of a teacher he was and like good at fostering a local community. I'm like, the second time, I think, around Catch and Flow, Kev's like, I think Kevin too is like, yo, we gotta add somebody. Like, we were looking at a few different players, but I was like, I feel like Mizuki and Ayumu are two really good people to start with. And so we invited them on that trip. And so I just think like those first two trips started to form. And the next KWC comes around, and Lyndon's like, I'm going. Like, you guys looked like a great time. And so it just naturally, same thing, I feel like naturally just started out small and just kind of like a fun trip, or, just each year, like, we've added more players and things have grown more and better results at KWC. And I've learned every time I go, I like leave with 10 to 20 more phrases, and I've like retained everything that I've learned. But yeah, 2018-19, I went KWC Catch and Flow, KWC Catch and Flow. COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I was back home, my hometown, population of 1,500. I'm the only kendama player. I'm like at home. Like, the kendama brand was doing really good. Like, we actually grew a lot that year in sales. Like, people started playing who stopped playing after a while. But I realized, I was like, there's a future where it's possible that I could never go back to Japan. And this was after like 4 really impactful trips.
Yeah.
And like that, I don't know, that made me like, there was like maybe one of like the big things coming out of COVID for me was like that realization that like, oh, like international travel, but international travel could be taken away from me at any point. There is a possibility in the future I can never go back. And this was even before vaccine or any of it. It was like, flights were closed off. Like, you just couldn't go. And like, that realization for me, it was just like, the first chance I get to go back, I'm going. And so I was one of the first people in 2022.
Yep.
KWC, the only way you could go is if you had the vaccine, and then you had to get a special visa through Gloken, And I think I've heard that this is the same visa that Olympic athletes get for KWC. So Alex and I started living together in 2022, and I'm like, dude, we gotta go. We're going back. Like, we're going. So he and I got our visa, and then I think maybe Jake and Tio as well.
Yep.
And then Yusol from Korea, and then maybe like one or two other people. The only foreigners at Cup. And like looking back, I was like, dude, that was the easiest year that I'll ever get to qualify. And I just didn't even like, dude, I just did not practice the way I should have. But I think for me, like after 2022, like I went back in December. So I got my KWC and catch flow. It wasn't enough. I was like, I got to go 3 times in 1 year. So 2023, I went 3 times.
Yeah.
And 2024, let's see. Yeah, I've already been twice. So I'm going to go a 3rd time. I got to go. But next year.
And you've been hosting Battle of the Deltas there. You're an event hoster in this country, Japan too, which is like,
dude. Okay, so let me tell you about Battle of the Delta, because that's a whole funny story. So the first year I was there, 2018, Shamal introduced me to all these great people. Like we went to the Kodamira jams, and like that whole crew, like just grew to love Sol Kendamas, and like instantly just got some people so diehard for Sol. And it seemed like everyone we met, every jam, like every event, you could just, I don't know, it was so crazy. And so I was finishing my 2 months, and like I had this feeling of like, I need to like say thank you. Like I need to like give back to all these people, because I just felt that overwhelming support and like love from everyone. And so I asked Jamal, I was like, can we host like a going away party? Or like, can I do it at Moo? And then Ayuma was like, well, if we have more than like 10 people, it's going to be like really, really packed, and like definitely more than 10. Like if you put out a like, hey, I'm having a going away event, he's like, more than 10 people will come. I was like, okay. And so Hassan, the omurice chef, was like, oh, we can rent a venue. Like, I know it's like an affordable venue, like right down the street. Wow. So like the capacity would be like 80. I'm like, oh, okay. So let's do that. I'm like, well, if we're going to rent a venue, I mean, I like kind of have to make tricks and like host an event, right? Like, I'm like, we can't rent a venue for a going away party. I'm like, let's host the competition. So like, this was like 2 or 3 weeks out. And so like, I was like, okay, we'll just run the tricks from Battle of the Border, and then just translate them into Japanese, make cards, and then do like beginner, intermediate, advanced, and open division. And so we did that. We had like 60 people show up. I think let's see. I think Utaro won, and Takuya got second. Takuya got second place. He was like an infant, dude. It was crazy. But like, yeah, that was the event the first year. I wanted to throw a going away party. We had to get a venue to fit enough people. I'm like, let's throw an event. And so I was like, Battle of the Border. Let's just take battle and then like Sumida, which is where Shimal's office and Moo Coffee is, in the shape of a triangle, also known as Delta. And that area, Shimal's like, oh yeah, this is the Delta. I'm like, okay, let's call it Battle of the Delta. And 2019 came back, and I was like, a few months out, I was like, Shimal, let's do it again. Like 1 week after KWC, so I can like get some foreigners to come. And he's like, sounds good. And so we did it. And then when COVID happened, like we just couldn't do it. So we did 2 years, and 2020 didn't happen. 2021 didn't happen. When I went back in 2022, I'm like, can we do it again? Shimal's like, yes, but I've thought about it and I want to change everything. And I'm like, oh, really? And so he came up with this new system where it's like, you challenge a Sol Pro, and if you beat them on the trick, you get a coin. And then you exchange coins for prizes donated by like sponsors. And the way it works is there's all these divisions. Imagine Lighthouse. There's 8 trick styles. And then like it's like Lighthouse, Lunar, Juggle, Around. And there's each division has a version of that trick. So if you're a beginner player, Lighthouse is just like pull up Lighthouse, no spike. And then for the highest level, Shimal calls it KWC finalist. The trick was Lighthouse, flip swap late trip can throw a house in. And so a brand new, like a beginner player could come up and challenge Monty on Lighthouse. And if they make their pull up Lighthouse and Monty misses his trick, they get a coin. Wow. And so you get 8 cards, you exchange. It's a really cool program. Like everybody can compete. You can compete against some of the like most talented players and you can lose or you can win. But you're playing at your own skill level. And so it was a really good idea. It worked out really well. And we've continued that. We did it 2023 as well, 1 week after KWC. We had like 120 people, which is awesome. And it's grown like year after year as well. And last year was like really, really difficult for Shimao, Ayumu, Yutaka, and myself because I was traveling around with 8 players. And Ayumu owns Mumu, and Shimao owns his own business, and Yutaka a full-time job. We're all co-hosting this. And we went to Hatsukaichi the week before. So imagine just like trying to plan an event, but you have to like leave your town and go focus on like the Kendama World Cup.
Yeah.
And then come back and it's like the coffee shop was hurting, Shimao's business was hurting. Like I couldn't help them with planning because I'm like also taking around 8 people who need help in Japan. And like I'm the leader of the group. So it was like hard for me to get away and I actually work and do stuff. So we decided like, okay, in 2024, let's just do it later in the year. I'm like, I want to come to Japan in fall. I've never been. The weather sounds great. Flights were cheaper than winter or summer. And so we're doing it in October this year. So end of October, I'll be back in Japan this year. And less stress on everyone. And the event's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. It's going to be great. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's so cool. I mean, I remember the first advertisement I saw for Battle of the Delta. I was like, wow, what is this? I don't even get it. No way that I was like, what is this event? I don't even know if it's an event. It can't be Chad because he's American. There's no way he's hosting an event in Japan. Oh my God. You know, like that. I was like, this is epic. Like, yeah, I mean, the fact that you kept it recurring too was so cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing the turnout in how the event goes in the fall. It's a unique experience. Yeah, there's not a lot of like reasons. You got to make your own reason to go in the fall, right? Like there's not a lot of events, huge events in the fall in Japan. So
yeah, and I think I like really, I don't know, I got lucky at least, like because I was having this like man, it is actually going to be hard to go out like 4 times in a year for catch and float. They're not doing it this year. Like they're doing the whole. So I'm like, dude, I got so lucky like planning this trip. Like the timing is spaced out nicely, and like I also do prioritize like my Japan trips. Like one thing, like sadly, I haven't been to Vancouver, like Van Jam since 2019. So it's like there's other events that I miss out on, like Dom and the D I haven't been back to. There's a lot of events that I haven't been able to make it to, but I'm like, you know, Japan has just been a bigger focus for me now. And like, that's okay. That's where my feeling is, like what I want to do and like what feels right. And it's going really well. Like the team there is amazing. Working with Shimao, someone who, I mean, it really is hard to say, or it's hard to like actualize. I think I'm realizing it as I'm telling you, like how much pride Shimao takes in Sol Kendamas as if he is literally an owner or a pro player. And I think everyone on Sol has that same feeling. Like everyone's like, I've dedicated myself fully to Sol, and like they're proud of everything, every little accomplishment, big accomplishment. Like it's cool. It's cool to have gotten that and to like have that in Japan, like feeling as strongly as it does here. I feel like really rare for not just a Kendama brand, but like, I don't know, like any person or any brand of anything around the world, like to feel like in another country, another culture, to have just that same level of trust and feeling and like it's cool, it's special. Yeah,
it's extremely special. I feel like you have a really unique presence in Japan. You know, a lot of players go for once or twice in their life, but you like like with everything you've done for the past ever since you started Sol, and you just keep showing up. You keep showing
keep showing up.
You keep developing these relationships. You keep hosting these events, making these connections with people, and to have them back your company as much as you back your own, it's very special. And I think that's definitely been a part in why you love Japan so much. You have been there so many times and they've given so much to you. So it's only natural that you feel tied to this country. And I'd love for you to, tell us a little bit more if you want, if it's information that you want, that can be shared, how it plays into your future going into the next year. I mean, what does Japan look like for you? You've been there multiple times. You've lived there for a couple months. I mean, what can we see in the next year? Are you going to be going there for an extended period of time?
Yeah, so a recent, yeah, I'm more than glad to share. Recently, Alex and I have been roommates for a bit of time. He's choosing a different path now, and it's like, hey, like I want to go do this. Can I focus on this? Like I want to move out, and so I thought about it for a while. Like we've lived together now for 3 years, and so it presented a cool opportunity for me. I'm like, okay, do I like just get my own spot? Do I like what do I do? I'm like, it's like I've always wanted. I really love Japan. I want to spend more time there. I want to learn the language because Zach, you mentioned this the other day. It's like to be there and to see someone who doesn't speak English and to not have a conversation with them is like, dude, it's so heartbreaking. You're like you want to have a deep connection with someone, you can't because there's this language barrier, and we're very lucky. A lot of Japanese players have learned English and really good English too.
And they'll say like, oh, sorry, my English. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, it's a
Like,
blessing for even talking at this level. Like
if my Japanese was as good as yours, trust me, I wouldn't be saying I'm sorry. Like, I would be so happy. No. So I've decided next year that I'm going to become a Japanese student. I'm going to learn the language. Dedicating 6 months, and my goal, my priority for that 6 months is to come out conversationally fluent. And
Nice.
Leading up to that, I want to be able to at least confidently read katakana and hiragana. I study 30 minutes, plus or minus every day. Right now, I've 7-day streak where I've been like pretty steady. But the goal is to come out of that 6 months and like I want to have those conversations. And I know it'll be basic. I could also get a lot done. I think focusing primarily on that during those 6 months, I will. Just got to show up and do it. But yeah, like I'll be out there for Kendama World Cup. I'm going to be home for Battle of the Border. I should be home for NAKO if they have it in November, like a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. So I'll miss a few like smaller events in the US, but there's plenty of events happening in Japan, and I'm definitely going to make a priority to be at as many of those as I can, if not all of them. So very excited for that. Yeah, it's a lot of people are surprised, but then everyone else is like, no, we expected that. Like that makes sense. Yeah. Seeing as many times as I've been. So
yeah, it's a commitment. Yeah, I'm stoked that you get to have that experience and you're making that for yourself. Do you know where in Tokyo? Is it in Tokyo or?
Yeah, so I've applied to the school. The window closes in October, so I'll find out if I get accepted.
Okay.
The school is in Iidabashi in Tokyo.
We're literally right.
Yeah, I was literally,
we're literally
there right
no
now.
way, let's go. It's crazy. I'm going to see you guys in Atlanta, right?
Just Zach.
Yeah.
Just Zach? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to be staying for a bit longer?
Just because I actually am going to CKO now, China Canal Open.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I got invited there, so I'm gonna be doing some stuff for them. But yeah, so I just decided, well, a little cheaper to stay here, so I'm gonna.
Yeah. Dude, not bad, Nick. Kendama players are really good about hosting and experiencing a new culture. I know you've been before, but wow, it's like to think all these different pockets where kendama happens in such a deep way, and like you just don't know until you go or you meet somebody. It's a really cool and special thing. But yeah, I'll be studying like kind of centrally in Tokyo. Yeah, it's really cool. I want to be able to make it out to EKC during the middle of that. That's my only thing I'm a little nervous about. I'm like, attendance, I read, if you're at 80% of classes, that you still keep your student visa. And so I'm like, oh, easy, light work. I'm like, I'm not missing. If I'm in Japan, I'm not missing class. Like the only thing I'm missing for is to go to EKC. So maybe I like squeeze a quick EKC, like quicker than my usual trip. I don't want to miss class. I want to be a good student, but EKC. So that's the only, I think that's the only event like in the middle of that. The window is like April to October.
Okay.
So if NACO keeps in November, we're chilling. Battle, of course, like end of January. I'm gonna keep it there. So
yeah, that's incredible news, man. Well, it starts out as 6 months, right? We don't know what's gonna happen.
That's true. So yeah, for me, okay. So Nick, you're a great person to talk to about this, but like I've gone on trips, and that 2 months was the longest I've stayed. The second longest I've stayed is 1 month. And that's usually, you know, like Canal World Cup, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. Catch and flow, usually it's like after Thanksgiving, I'll go, and then like I'll spend as much time up until Christmas, like usually 3 weeks.
Yep.
This is like a true test, like 6 months, you're there. And it's like, do I like visiting or do I like living? And I'll be in Tokyo, so it's definitely a different experience than your experience like in Nagai. But I think it'll be like a testament to like, okay, do I like visiting or do I actually want to live here? And so after that 6 months, if I really, really enjoy it, like I'm definitely gonna look into staying longer. And
no, you're gonna love it. There's no
my brother, I'm like, I don't even see a world where Chad is like that. I'm good.
Well, definitely not.
But like that's honestly what.
Oh, I mean, okay, sure, there are factors in every country that are like, oh, it's not as too good, you know, it's too good to be true, or it's not as what I thought it would be, whatever. But I mean, you're who you are and who you become as a kendama player, and in this game, it just amplifies your experience more than tenfold. So I promise you, 6 months, you're gonna be like, oh, this isn't even enough. Like I mean, I don't say anything for certain, but
I just gotta figure out the visa, long-term visa situation, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I want to start. I'll make sure I can speak Japanese and read Japanese to the best of my ability. I know that actually never finishes, like like learning constantly. Especially kanji, right? But
right. Well, I know you're gonna do your best, and honestly, like, if you keep showing up a class, it'll be great. And then I'll try and send you what I thought has helped me along the way, and help you there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just stoked for you, man. God, I'm so excited.
Thank you. It's one of those experiences like I feel like after you've gone to Japan and then you have someone else go, you're just like so excited for them to experience everything you've experienced, you know? And so you've also had that on such a deep level, a very deep level. So it's cool. It's cool. I'm excited.
Let's go.
Heck yeah. I'm excited for you too. I know I'm just really confident that your trip's gonna be a blast. You're gonna learn a lot, so it's gonna be amazing.
Thanks.
I wanna talk about you as a player. You know, we've gone through, you know, we talked a lot about Sol, you as an owner, you know, managing the team, how the history came to be, but you know, you as a player, you also play a lot. And you know, you at the start of this conversation, you did say, I love making edits, I love making videos. Chad, last night I was like, man, I should watch some of Chad's recent videos to get like refreshed. You know, I've seen a lot of them, but I should get refreshed. You know what? I actually didn't even watch any because I literally looked up Chad Covington and I was like, I quickly realized like, wow, this might be just something to talk about itself. Chad is probably the most kendama videos out of anybody on YouTube. Like,
oh dang!
I don't know. I don't know that for a fact, but I was like, wait a minute, Chad has like actually like 1 million edits. Like a million.
Yeah, I think if shorts don't count,
I was like, dude, this guy has made so many kendama edits over the years. I can't even pick one to like just go back and I mean his recent like from edits from like just purely one dom edits to like just one up games, Ken games. I'm like, dude, this guy's been in like over 100 videos easily, you know, and it's so insane. I mean, it's amazing, but you still manage to, you know, play kendama and post tricks pretty frequently, no matter where you're at in the world or, you know, it's any time of the year. How is the balance between playing kendama and working, you know, like, because how is the balance for that?
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, dude, from the foundation, I'm a kendama player. I love playing kendama. I love pushing myself. I love learning new tricks, and I also at some point with having a kendama brand and like as a sponsored player, you're like, okay, I'm going to use this kendama as a way to promote it. And so there's like periods definitely that I've gone through where I'm like, okay, I need to go out and film a trick to promote this kendama. But then there's other times where I'm like, oh, I'm really excited about this concept. I want to just go out and land this. I don't even think about the kendama I'm using, just whatever feels the best, right? But for a while, I would say, man, it goes in and out. Like early on, wasn't thinking about it at all. Purely, it's fun. I love filming. I love sharing that. And then maybe for a little bit, it's like, oh, I need to get a clip up. So like, it wasn't like I thought of a trick and I want to film it. It was like, I need to film. I went out and filmed, like, let me think of a trick. Okay, there we go. Got it. So there was a period, I think, where it was like, bro, I gotta post a clip. I gotta stay, I gotta like keep posting, whether it's like people around me or like pro players or my team or whoever. It's like I just gotta keep up, There's been periods of that, but like I'm at a place, I think now, like current day, where it's a good mix of like level ups, learning new concepts, promoting kendama, and just having fun.
Yeah.
I would say Kendama World Cup, I practiced, I think I put like 30 or 40 hours into practice for Kendama World Cup. And after Kendama World Cup, just casually playing, tricks just land on the spike. Stalls are hitting, lunars are hitting, and it feels a bit effortless in a way after KWC. Like, do you feel this way like after practicing a lot? Because I talked to Alex and he's like, that's not an experience for him at all.
That it's effortless.
So like after Kendama World Cup, I would just spam tricks, whatever my go-tos. Everything is just hitting with like minimal effort.
Okay.
It felt like after doing the 30 to 40 hours of practice leading up to Kendama World Cup. So leaving that KWC honed, like so honed and feeling like surprising myself with like, oh my gosh, I'm like hitting a trick and it, like, for example, 1.5 juggle with 3 flips, throw 1.5 in.
Yeah.
Just like the tom is just there. I'm like, well, it's just there. That feeling of just that confidence. I get that after like Kendama World Cup, a period of like insane amount of practice, because I think in my day-to-day play, I'm not playing like that. I'm not playing that many hours day to day or week to week. Like that was a super rare case for me.
Right. And I think, yeah, just for that, I mean, that's definitely the reason that's happening. Like you practice a lot of these like many hours more than you would regularly play. Like you not only do that, but then you go to Japan where you are playing Kendama for like 8 hours, 10 hours a day, like 10 hours a day, the entire day. And then everything's just feel easier. You get that skill boost, kind of like when you went through like a time chamber, you would achieve a skill level faster than 3 times faster than you would normal playing at your normal frequency. Yeah, that definitely happens after that's definitely happened to me before after World Cups for sure. Just because of
I guess like post event hone. Do you guys feel that a lot?
Definitely have felt that in my life.
Yeah,
for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, so I think I leave every event feeling way more honed than I did before. And that's I think my day-to-day play is a lot less than my like I will practice. Like when I'm going to an event, I'm like, I should at least be comfortable with all the tricks. I shouldn't question the enders. Like it shouldn't be, oh, is it flip spike? Is it drop in? Like I know my tricks going in. So every event that I'm participating in open, I am practicing, sometimes more than others. Like KWC was definitely the most I practiced for an event.
Yeah.
Maybe ever. But day to day, like yesterday I practiced ATLO tricks for about an hour. Today I plan on putting in at least 30 minutes, maybe an hour tonight after this. But some days I don't play. I might just pick up a kendama. I might move it, or I might just like do a J stick or something. So it really depends. But for me, I think events keep me, like I get a fresh trick list. I'm like, just kind of running through those casually. Maybe I don't touch them for the first 2 weeks. I'm like, oh gosh, I better, better start looking at those and like practicing. But yeah, I think, when cloud bounces came out, I'm like, okay, I should try and like learn a couple of those. String pinches, like Jacob Watts taught me one. I'm like, okay, let me mess around with that, figure it out. There's a couple things Zacky's doing now. I'm like, oh gosh, like there's several levels. I gotta like scroll back and like figure out where he got there. That's like trying to host battle like your first year, like trying to host the 14th year of battle in your first year, watching Zacky tricks. But yeah, I mean, I would say like I probably play less than a pro player does, but more than the average player, maybe. And I definitely, if I'm going to an open division, like I practice the tricks. So, yeah, kind of stay sharp on what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, I find that I play. This is interesting. I find that I play one setup for like a very long time. Like I might use one setup for a month. Some people like will use like 3, 4, or 5 setups. Like I don't know why. My play style and like the way I enjoy to play kendama is like one setup for until the base cup chips or like the spike is too flat. Like that's kind of my.
Wow, that's just a lot coming from you since you have access to every kendama you could ever want.
Dude, that's hard too, yeah, because I have a lot of really nice fresh setups that I don't get around to. I'm a collector as well. Like I've got a nice collection, and yeah, some setups that we make I don't get, and I just if I know I'm not going to use it as much, I might not get one. Like the vibes, there's so many vibes. I'm like, dude, I love the design, but like I just can't play like 12. I'm like that's a whole year for me of kendamas, honestly. Like. I guess if I did more of the KWC practice, like for KWC, I used 2 setups. My practice setup was like basically like 3/4 of the way, and I switched a new ken on the same tama.
Nice.
And then I used that like the last like 2 weeks maybe. And so that's an interesting thing, yeah. Setups, the way I go through setups. But yeah, I think it's a balance, just like trying to find. I think events give a good reason to practice and play, and then I also, if I ask my team, I don't ask my team. I need 4 clips this month, but I'm like, post what you can, enjoy it, like have fun with it.
Yeah.
But I know if I go 1 month or 2 months or 3 months without posting, how in the world can I ask my team to post? Right. So I feel like, okay, if I'm a player on Sol and I see that Chad's posted 4 times this month, I'm gonna feel pretty bad if I haven't even posted once. Right. So like I also I gotta do it to like, keep everyone, posting and excited and like yeah, it's a little bit of motivation as well. Like
setting the bar.
Yeah, setting the bar, holding the bar. Yeah.
Set the bar. Yeah, I gotta set the bar. Yeah. So it's not so much like, hey, I need you guys to post. I'm like, dang, Chad's posting. I haven't even gotten one out. Like, I need to get out there. So,
yeah.
Like
that. Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, it's definitely interesting to see how you go through setups because I mean, it's hard for a pro player to just play one setup. I mean, you're a company owner, you have access to all the shapes and stuff, and yeah, you're still going. But it's nice to hear that.
If you kind of like scroll through my Instagram, you can see like sets of 3, 4, 6 tricks are on the same setup.
Okay, yeah.
That sounds you can kind of see which setups I'm playing for a while. And it does change a little bit, like depending if I'm like posting a trick just to promote a dama, versus like the setups I'm playing like start to finish, like flat spike, chip base cup. Yeah, but that's changed. It's just changed over the years because like when I first started, you don't even think about promoting anything or like you're just playing. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you have like a good balance, and you still, and like you said to yourself, the first thing you said was, yeah, first and foremost, I'm a kendama player. I love kendama, and I think that's amazing. You're still finding time, prioritizing time, still making time to get it in at a frequency after 14 years of playing, which is massive. So I hope people listening to this can listen to that and be like, I can make more time, or like I can find time to actually play, and actually do it because it's possible. It's just
Definitely, dude. The end of my like college career, I had 12 hours, still a full-time student. I was working 20 hours at the coffee shop and running Sol Kendamas and doing extracurricular activities, and still did 28 tricks later, like camera, tripod on the feed.
Peace.
Like that's crazy. And I look back and I'm like, there's literally I have no excuse now. Like Sol is just my only focus. I'm like, dude, I how in the world did I do that? Like you look back at times where you're like really on it, I'm sure you guys probably have a bit of that as well.
We do.
No
for sure. Yeah. And it's exactly what I just thought of. Like you look back at different seasons in your life and you don't really notice it in the moment, but you're like, like whether it be kendama or something else, with other interests, school, whatever, it's like, oh my God, I was dialed. Like I was so dialed back then in this certain area, in this certain season of my life. I was so dialed on this. And then, it's fun to look back on and take inspiration from that. And, I think, dude, we covered a lot today. And I want to get to some of the Instagram questions before we wrap up. And we actually covered a lot of them. But I'm going to see here. We have a fun one from Colin Sander. He says, difference between hiking and trail running. I don't know if that's like an inside joke or something, but
yeah. So we're friends on Strava, and so like he'll do these crazy mountain sends. He does these cycling. He'll do like hundreds of miles on a bike. Colin Sanders, still one of those guys. I see a notification or message pop up like butterflies. You're like, dude, what a legend! Like if people think I'm a legend, that is a true legend. Hiking, you just you got the boots on, maybe you got the gear, you're just kind of enjoying the hike, nature, escaping from social media, technology, the city, whatever. A hike is just enjoyable, nice, form of exercise. Trail running, it's so different, dude. You were just like, you have to be so quick because of roots and rocks. It's so dangerous. Like you're on, depending like where in the country or where in the world, like trail running is so dangerous and it is so taxing on the body. And like, it's like your heart rate is like 160, 170, 180, like pushing the highest numbers. Imagine running a stair climber machine. Like basically sprinting that, and like that is trail run. But you're always making these like micro decisions in your head. You're watching your feet, but you're looking up, and like, if you're in California, you're watching out for rattlesnakes, and like if you're in Tennessee or like North Carolina, you go like, okay, there's bears. Like there's so many things that you have to be like mindful of, I guess. Trail running, but like trail running is intense. And Colin, on my Strava, I'll like post a 5K run, and he'd be like, dude, I think you could take this 5K like to some trails. Like he like pushed me, like trying to motivate me to like level it up. Or I'll go on a hike, and he's like, dude, you can do this distance trail run next time.
Wow.
So he's motivating me outside the Kendama fitness level. So
okay, thanks for sense. I didn't really get that question, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. I've got a couple here. What's your favorite era of kendama and why?
Ooh, favorite era of kendama. Man, there's like different aspects, I guess. Like I think right now we are in the best time for like kendama shapes and paints and products than there's ever been. Like this is like the golden era of like, we've designed kendamas to be able to land kendama tricks to the best of their ability. But like as a player and like a spectator in the competitive world, like the era of Bonds being our GOAT is like a nice, nostalgic, iconic time frame. We're also in a cool one now where it's like Takuya's been back to back, and then Ryoga comes in, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like that argument right now could also be there, but like, I think, dude, I kind of love kendama right now, to be honest. We definitely miss the YouTube edits. I think, like sometimes single tricks kind of just get lost in the feed. You don't really go back and reference certain tricks unless you save them and like you're bookmarked and you're organized. Some people, like watch a trick like, yo, that was the most insane trick of my life. Scroll on and then like might forget about it, And then other people like bookmark and they're like, yo, this is like my bookmark folder for these insane tricks,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like now, era of Kendama is pretty sick. I gotta say.
Yeah.
Kind of like where we're at now. But yeah, something about the Bonds being the GOAT, that was a cool time for him too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, next one. Any visions for Sol beyond what they are already doing?
Let's see.
It's a yeah, tough question.
I think, what we're doing now is creating pro models for our pro players. And for players that aren't pros, they're on the team, they get a Sol vibe, so they get to design their own kendama. So everybody on the team kind of like has a kendama that they can like call their own and be proud of. Right. And I'm gonna keep doing that. And then it's been a really strong focus of mine to like make the greatest kendamas I can. And a lot of people ask like, when is Sol getting their own original paint? That is so not natural for me to figure out and to do and to find, right? There's so many brands making amazing paints. And so we collaborate with all of those brands and have made original kendamas with the people who've like figured out how to paint and seemingly like love painting too. Like people who are like really get into it and like we've made kendamas most recently with Dow, we got Raptor Clear. We work with Legacy to make the Shibui and Easy Clear. We've made Okinawa collaborations with their Neo Clear and Neo Glaze. We Cushion Clear with Sweets. There's so many projects like that I want to keep doing. Yeah. And it's cool. Yeah, like we make kendamas in China, Japan, in Latvia, and we've also made stuff in the US as well. So I just think like working with as many people as we can that are doing like really good quality projects and things in kendama, and like working with good people with good intentions, like I want to keep doing that, keep focusing on that, and like just doing more of that with the team and with cool brands. So
right. Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. Couple new visions for the future. And then last one I got here, tips to anyone driven to grow kendama into something bigger than what it is already. This is from 808 Kendama Club.
Yeah, dude, 808, he has so much energy right now for kendama, and he's so excited to do things, and he's DMing everyone on the Sol team, and just he's so excited to do stuff. And I think the most important thing is like, yeah, just continue hosting these jams, continue filming tricks, and like genuinely, and like if he enjoys that part of it, everything else will come. Like anything and everything he wants will come out of him just doing what he loves doing, and like sharing that with other people. Right. I think there's something to be said about like, I don't know, you can work on something a lot on your own. This is outside of like 808, but just for anybody, like you can like work on something or think about something or be so excited or like have this crazy good brainwave or thought process. But if you don't do anything, you don't share it with anyone, it kind of just doesn't become anything. You just gotta like do something and put it out there and just keep doing that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Learning through just doing stuff. Like just executing on some level and just putting it out there for the world. And then you'll improve over time. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it. You got a idea, just put it out there and just you'll naturally workshop it because you're gonna want to make it better anyways. You'll get the feedback and you're just gonna keep going. Just keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And like don't set like some expectations are okay, but like don't set massive expectations. Like hold a standard for yourself, maybe. Like write some goals down that you want to achieve, but like if you have like really strong expectations, you don't meet them, you get upset and then just ditch a project or like ditch all the hard work that you've been putting in because you're like, oh, I didn't feel like it did what I thought it would. That's, that's not good, on a small level, that's okay because that, change, make it better, but like, don't just give up completely. Like Sol Kendamas, like, again, it was like 4 or 5 years before I even felt like, okay, like people know we're a brand and we're like, we're here, but still, I feel like I'm just getting started. Like 10 years in, I feel like we're just now like just getting going. So
that's amazing to hear,
That's
Chad.
so cool.
yeah.
I have one question for myself for the end.
Yeah.
Can we expect anybody new on Sol in the next in 2024? Can we expect that?
In 2024, I think it's unlikely in 2024. But there's definitely a handful of people that are very much on my radar.
Okay.
And if it's a handful of things, like maybe it's a timing thing, maybe it's we need to see a little more dedication to the brand, or we need to see that you're really interested in Sol, not just a sponsorship.
Yes.
Or the team just has to meet you and get to know you. So there's like those 3 things, and it depends on the situation, because like there's kendama players who come in with the skill already, and you're like, okay, like for this situation, it's like we gotta get to know you. Like the whole team needs to know who you are, because if we're spending time together, gotta get along, and like it's an important part of the team dynamic, and then for other players, like if a player leaves a brand, like you can't expect to just get picked up a month later or 2 months or 3 months. Just like ride it out for a while. And if I see that you like our kendamas, or I want you to play our kendamas, I'll give you the kendamas. Trust me, I'll hook it up. You know what I mean? Like you guys were a free agent. Like I hooked you guys up with a couple of damas.
Thanks, Chad.
You're welcome. Right. Yeah. I'm like, now whatever you guys want to do with that, that's up to you. But like, there's a lot of players that if I just like them as a player, or I think they have potential for something, I just want to support that. I think it's great. And if they choose to rep Sol, or if they like Sol, or if Sol is a good fit, it will happen. It'll just happen. Right. That's the way, the natural way of Sol. It'll happen if it's meant to. So, you know what? Yeah. If we're adding a player in 2024, it'll happen. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen. And if it doesn't, maybe 2025. We'll see.
It's like the answer everybody's like not wanting to hear. They want to hear a definitive yes. They just want to hear a definitive yes. They just want to but you're like, if it happens, if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Look, I don't have any announcements planned or filmed right now.
Yeah. Okay.
That is a definitive answer. So.
There it is.
Okay. Well, Chad, I think we had a great conversation today. That was probably
our longest one.
I think that's our longest one we've ever done. So
let's go.
It went by really fast. So
it did,
I think that's a great sign of an awesome conversation. I hope everybody listening really liked it as well. I think there's a lot of value and amazing insight in here that we touched on. So Chad, thank you so much for coming on and making the time. We really, really appreciate you.
Zach, Nick, thank you. Had a great conversation and enjoyed it. So see you soon. Whether it's Atlanta or Japan, wherever that may be. So
we'll see you.
All right, Chad. Thanks so much.
Yeah, take care.
See ya.
Peace out.